What's up? What's up? Hey, what's going on, Gina? I'm glad you can make it. I know you come in late this morning. What's up, Allison? What's up, Kay? We are doing good. We are doing good. What's up, Josh? Hey, so like I was saying earlier this morning in my live, I got this video pulled up of the dude's name is DD Got a Podcast, but some of the information that they put out is like beyond the scope that most of us would ever even dig into. What's up, Slayback? And like, I don't always agree with digging in people's finances and shit like that, but sometimes when things don't look right, you have to ask yourself why. And we're gonna watch a little bit of it. Now I'm gonna speed up through the intro of it and shit. Well, I'm glad you made this one. So let me bring this shit up here. I think a lot of people, why ain't it trying to share the mother? What the fuck is going on here? I don't know why it's not. Let's cancel that. I don't know why I wouldn't share it. My video is blocked. What the? It's blocked it. Ain't that fucking some shit here? All right, so I'm gonna have to re-pull it up, evidently. What the fuck? Let me re-pull this shit up. That was crazy. For some reason I had blocked it, I guess, because I had it on my other monitor. I don't understand that. Whatever. We'll try it this way. There we go. It pulled it up this time. Let me go and pull this video up. Yeah, see, they're talking about Charlie on fucking the Times right now too, which is crazy. They covering something up, y'all. They definitely covering something up. When people go to great lengths, and you know what? When a lot of people hear this information, I think they're going to understand why these people are acting the way that they are. To me, I mean, why would you? I don't know. We'll just we'll let y'all see it for yourself.
Well, they knew he was going to disappear. So if you know he's going to disappear, let's make some money off it. I don't know why else. I just don't know why you would wait. Again, I think it's reasonable to wait a few years. If they would have done this in 2020, that wouldn't have caught my attention because in 2020, he was really elevated.
So what they're talking about is they created this life insurance policy. Let me back it up. They brought it way back. They created a life insurance policy just a couple years ago, like in 2023. And you'll understand why I let it play. What's up, Sean?
Nonprofits and vice versa. Because once
this dude is the guy on the right is a professional auditor. And when he says what he says that he has dug up on Turning Point USA, I think people are going to look at all them people a lot different.
So that's what led me into, let me just see what's going on here. And
let me back it up just a little more.
He shared some things. I got some backlash for it, but a lot of people have been talking about this, but I don't think enough people have been talking about this. But Candace Owens was one of the people to bring this up as far as, anyone with her size of a platform. So with that, I'm going to just have my guest to introduce himself as he has conducted his own audit of Turning Point USA, and then we're going to delve into the details.
Sure. So thanks for having me, Didi. I have about 20 years experience in finance, and that's on the corporate side. So financial planning, financial budgeting, forecasting, and auditing, which really led me to this point. I've done these audits before, and so I just started digging into this data. Additionally, I have about 15 years experience as a programmer and software developer. So I really understand how these algorithms work. And I think that may come up a little later.
Okay. Now, before we get into anything, because Brian, you're going to have people to say this. They're going to say, is he a Democrat? And I hope you're going to be honest with us.
I'll be honest. Sure.
Are you a Democrat? Are you political in any sense? Do you have a bone to pick when it comes to the Charlie Kirks to the conservatives of the world? And to that, you will say what?
So if we pull up my name, I've never registered to vote. I've never voted. I don't believe in voting. So I'm not political. I'm not on any party. I don't support a candidate. I've never gone after a candidate, meaning I don't like say, hey, let me take down Biden or let me take down Trump. I'm a researcher as well in my spare time, which is kind of what this was. I go after things that catch my interest. So if something looks a little off, I start researching it. I start looking into it.
So why did Charlie Kirk look off to you?
So Charlie Kirk fit a pattern that I've seen, and I'm not sure if you or your audience have noticed this. It's strange to me when the establishment says someone is a threat and yet they're being promoted. Andrew Tate would fall in this category. I hear, hey, no one can listen to Andrew Tate, and he's getting millions of views.
He's everywhere.
What's that?
And he's everywhere.
And he's everywhere, right? So, and again, I said earlier, I'm a programmer. I understand how these algorithms work. So if it were me and I was so scared of Charlie,
I'll be honest with y'all. My takeaway after watching this, what's up, Potential? After watching this, made me understand why they paraded this man around after he was assassinated.
Kirk, that's one line of code. One line of code in the system, I can algorithmically suppress him, or I can algorithmically boost him. So I thought, well, that's weird. Why aren't they doing that? If no one's supposed to listen to him and he's so controversial, one line of code would take care of him. You don't even need to physically kill him. You can just, we run on algorithms. So that struck me as odd, and during the Trump campaign during COVID, I really noticed Turning Point getting a major boost. YouTube started rolling out those shorts. He would get millions of views. And I thought, well, that's weird. It's not like he's saying anything provocative. He's saying, transgenders shouldn't be 4 years old. I feel like that's a standard comment. I don't think that would warrant 1 million views. So that's what led me into, let me just see what's going on here. And I don't know if you want to stop me there or keep going or.
To the regular Schmo Joe who would say, such as myself, despite the fact that I'm a content creator and I understand algorithms a little bit, to those that will say to you, Brian, before we even get into the details of the audit, well, what if they had huge donors, which they did, and they have a lot of budget? They have a lot of dollars behind them. So even if the quote unquote establishment or the power.
Hey, I know a lot of people are not going to find this interesting, but I do, because I see the bigger powers at play here.
That be is attempting to suppress them. They have the money to push.
We're doing good, bro.
To overcome that. To that, you would say what?
You're right, but the last I checked, they don't run Google, right? Google controls the YouTube algorithm. Elon Musk, Jack Dorsey, those guys control the Twitter algorithm. There's coders and developers in there. So, I mean, you're right. Like the big lobbies and the big firms have financial power. I mean, I guess they could always send an email to Google and say, something like, hey, make sure you keep our guy up. But then still, that shows he's artificial. That's not organic. You should, in my opinion, I'm not a content creator, but you should have the number of views that warrant your content. If your content it should be, what's interesting about Charlie Kirk, he's a capitalist. This isn't capitalism. Capitalism is a free market where consumers decide, I click your video, I don't click your video. And that's not what's happening. It's not possible to get these tens of millions of views. Same with the Charlie Kirk show I started looking into. Quickly after he would upload, 500,000 views. Like, even if you're well-liked, people work, people are busy during the day. It just struck me as something is going on here. Something's going on. It doesn't feel, or that's, it just didn't feel organic to me.
Okay. Now with that, we're going to jump into the audit, but Brian, you had no idea I was going to do this. There's something I want to read to you. So earlier I told you guys that I interviewed a guy by the name of Brian Ferentz a few days ago, who's an investigative reporter who has been apparently.
Man, somebody done tried to strike me again. What is going on with these people, man? What is going on with these people? Why? Whatever. I'm
looking into Turning Point USA for a number of years now, based out of Arizona, which is where Turning Point USA is headquartered. Well, let me read an email that I received.
Yeah, on a totally different thing. I just got a notification.
Hey, Didi.
I just got a notification about a video that I talked about 2 weeks ago. It's like, what?
If you really are interested in telling the truth, you should know it before you make accusations that can destroy people's jobs and dreams. Your recent guest, Brian, brought up rumors of potential wrongdoing at TPUSA in 2015. Did your guest verify any of the rumors were truthful? Was anyone connected to TPUSA fired or prosecuted for financial wrongdoing in 2015? That's what should be asked and determined before smearing Charlie's charity. Charlie Kirk had an independent audit done on TPUSA every year from 2018 to 2024. An annual audit was standard practice put in place by Charlie. An annual audit is very different from a quote unquote Doge style audit, which is also known as a quote unquote stream.
So let me just clarify this part right here. Charlie was having somebody in his camp doing the audit. Okay. So it's not like an independent auditor. And this dude breaks that down and explains it to people. And I think people are going to find this very, very strange.
Streamlining audit. See table at the end of this email to learn the difference, please. Inflation and rising costs in 2025 caused many services and materials to double in price, creating a need for Charlie to
Diamond, I find this stuff very, very interesting, right? And it's because we've all been lied to about who these people are. And the more that you look around, the more you realize a lot of us damn sure are fucking being lied to. What's up, Nose Squad?
focus continually on finding more donors. Since Charlie didn't want to spend too much more time on fundraising, he looked for a way to cut operating costs.
Hey, mama.
That's why he wanted a streamlining audit done to cut down on costs of ineffective or inefficient methods and services.
What's
a streamlining
up,
audit's purpose is not to find criminal activity. A forensic
Did you hear what he just said? Not to find criminal activity. So why in the fuck would you do it to start with, right?
audit would be done if Charlie Kirk suspected criminal use of TPUSA funds. Please get familiar with these terms and practices if you're planning to report on businesses, charities, and politics. I wish the best of luck to you in your career, and you can reach out to me anytime if you need an extra set of eyes or hands to do research involving political topics. Thanks.
That sounds like someone very scared. A few things jump out to me. Number one, notice they harp on 2015. What about 2018? What I'm about to show you, 2019, right? 2020. Like it's kind of like moving the goalposts because maybe there was nothing going on in 2015. So they focus on, well, hey, in 2015, everything's good here. Who's the auditors? So we have to first understand how these nonprofits work. A lot of the auditors are on the payroll. So are you going to bite the hand that feeds you? Are you really going to take down Turning Point when you're on the payroll? These are not independent audits.
Now, what's funny about that is that when I had Brian Ferentz on, he showed we showed within that live
Stapleton Group.
Tyler Boyer responded to some guys online and said that this is actually false because they've had independent auditors come in and that nothing suspicious was found.
Okay, so this video could be like 4 hours with what I've uncovered, and they couldn't find one of these things. Again, none of this is speculative, D, what we're about to go through. I just want to make clear everything is linked to government websites. This is not like the Alex Jones InfoWars blog. This is the IRS.gov, where you can pull up their 990s, which is the tax form, and state and federal websites to see who the LLC is registered to, right? Because that's important to know. If Turning Point is giving $10 million to an LLC, who owns the LLC? And so these guys couldn't do that. How can I do that? It's just go on Google and look it up. I mean, you see this all the time with these sort of responses. They're very weak, that they leave out a lot of the details and they kind of puff up the chest, a lot of gaslighting to make it like, hey, we're the victim. You're $100 million annual company. You're not the victim here.
And if you're making those numbers.
Yeah. Also, if you're making $100 million a year tax-free, remember,
$100 million.
We have every right to look into you. We donate to you. You're not an incorporation, right? You're not like a Google or some other company. You're a nonprofit. We should be like every line should be scrutinized because we need to know where our donations are going.
And I've always heard if you want to get rich, start a nonprofit.
And I'll tell you this, right before we jump into this, when I was looking this over, so you sent this to me yesterday and I was reading it over. I got up about maybe 5 o'clock this morning and started reading it over and my mouth dropped. I raised up in my bed and I was like, no, there's no way that this is true. And there's a couple of reasons, because if this is true, Brian, then one, either Candace Owens in particular hasn't really looked at any sort of honest independent audit, because it would implicate, in my opinion, I'm not a professional like you say you are. I'm just a small Joe looking, and I have common sense. And I'm saying, first and foremost, from what I've read through
it's
here,
coming, Diamond.
And I went through all of this. And what I'm telling you all watching this right now, it appears to me, maybe there are legal loopholes that I'm not familiar with. I'm not privy of. But from what I'm seeing, this would 100% implicate Charlie Kirk as being complicit. There's no way, because he's getting and we'll get into this, 6-figure salaries from multiple different avenues.
Correct.
And I'm like, what? Organizations and subsidiaries with no employees. crappy websites. But anyways, Brian, what would you say is the most efficient of how we should jump into this?
Before I
Kay and I was on that bandwagon too. Man, that lady's grieving. Everybody grieves different. But once you start watching and actually looking at the evidence, and let me be clear, I haven't found any of the evidence. I'm letting these people do it. And I'm just kind of watching it. And I'm like, what the fuck? But it's shit that people could be sued for if it's not true. And nobody's denying it. And these people got platforms. You understand? They're not going to let these people just come out and say this shit without it being true.
Feel free to speak without looking at the paperwork or looking at it with, if you have it physically yourself, and I can just do the editing after the fact and just show it on the screen for everybody to see.
Yeah,
or we can go about it a different way.
That's probably the best, right? Just because then there's the visual. I don't want to sidetrack, but you made a very important question about Candace Owens here and why this went the way she does. Let's not forget, Candace Owens has a nonprofit.
Blexit.
Right. So does she want to start drawing attention to what we can uncover when we investigate nonprofits? There's a reason why this is bipartisan. Notice how Democrats never go after Republican nonprofits and vice versa. Because once you open that up, then the public goes, "Whoa, I didn't know this." Most people have no idea about this. Most people have no idea you can go to irs.gov and download all the financials. That's all I did. No, probably 9 out of 10 people don't know that. So right there, they don't want that out there.
And you said that two things I want to say. The first thing is, from my understanding, from my emails, you were saying that you've been doing this for a number of years.
Diamond, the hell with the pants, the shit that she said, the old boy, the way that's,
Years, and you've just been updating it.
Meaning turning point. This whole
turning
thing of
point.
looking into nine. Yeah. Yes. Because I told somewhere around the COVID election is when Kirk caught my attention. And that was when I started looking into it. And then I have to wait a year or two to get the next year's IRS file. You know what I mean? So
you want to see if there's sort of a pattern that's taking place.
Right. Exactly.
The second thing I'll say is, to be fair to Candace, and I'm not here to defend nor attack her. If she deserves whatever comes her way, it just comes with it. But let me ask you this: why do you think she would bring it up? Because she said herself, and she's the one that brought it to our attention, that he was suspicious about the funds. He had called for a Doge-style audit. And I also want to say, when I was reading this over, I didn't realize that Officer Tatum is one of the co-founders of Blexit with Candace Owens.
According to the IRS filing.
According to what
I can only go by that, right?
Right. I didn't know that.
That's right on the IRS. It's Brandon Tatum, Candace Owens, and a woman named Rebecca Mercer, who's fascinating if you look into this Mercer family.
Okay.
I don't know if it is that she's ballsy, Diamond. It's more like trained, because you got to remember her upbringing, who raised her from a child. She's raised in a very higher up military family, and there's like serious structure to that.
Okay.
She's a very her father was Robert Mercer. I believe they were behind like Breitbart and some of these other, what people would call like Zionist Republican sort of groups. You can't find much else on them. They stay behind the scenes, and they do a lot of like covert dark money sort of operations like this. And then Rebecca Mercer was involved in
it's all normal,
if you remember. And then like Kanye gets involved, and then Candace's husband, George Farmer, was the CEO and president of Parler.
And that was eventually bought. I read somewhere.
That was eventually bought, right, by a guy connected to George Bush.
Yes.
Named Ryan Coyne, who I looked at. So it gets a bit incestuous. It gets a bit like interconnected. And I just think, and I'm only speculating, that's why a Candace type would maybe like one hand into this. You know what I mean? Like, she's not going to go all in on this, because then what if people start going all in on her own stuff?
Okay.
That's just my view. Again, it's totally speculating on that. I have no evidence, just,
Fair enough.
So as for this, I mean, this is so massive. Do you have an idea maybe what you'd like to start on? And then I can.
I think what would be the most efficient, Brian, if you can do this, because you guys, this audit is, I think it's like 20, it's like 25 pages.
Sorry for that, but that's the only way to do it,
Now, I think the most efficient way for us to go about this, Brian, is just start from the beginning and sort of the overarching. You can get as granular as you'd like on said topic, but just start with what catches your eye in chronological order. And let's maybe do, for sake of time, my audience is going to kill me because a lot of them prefer the longer videos, but so that this is digestible for people, let's do maybe 8 to 10 major takeaways from the audit, and you can get as granular with each topic as you'd like.
Got it. And feel free to interrupt at any time if you
Yep.
know you need further clarification. So I'd
And
like you
feel
you're
free
right.
to ramble as much as you'd like. I'm going to mostly listen unless I need clarification.
So I like your idea. Let's just start high level. Let's start how this is set up. Because to me, without understanding how it's set up, it doesn't make sense once you get into the detail. So what caught my attention? I thought it was only Turning Point USA because that's all we hear about. But as you start digging into the IRS files, you find out there's 3 more nonprofits. There's Turning Point Action, there's America's Turning Point, and then there's Turning Point Endowment. So whenever you hear endowment, that's like managing the investments. So they'll take cash, they'll buy stocks, they'll buy securities, and it'll just sit in this endowment fund. So I thought, okay, that's interesting. I'm not sure why Turning Point needs 4 of these. And then what caught my eyes, I hope when I go and look at this, I don't see Charlie Kirk giving himself a salary in all 4. Because to me, he should be getting a salary in TP USA, and in the other 3, it should be 0 because he's not logging any work hours. Turning Point Endowment, like I said, literally by their own words, manage the endowment. Charlie Kirk's not a financial advisor, last I checked. And what he ended up doing was it seems like he wanted 1.6 million a year. So he divided it by 4, and then each of the nonprofits he gets
Like
he gets that.
400,000 or something.
Right. That and then same with Tyler Boyer. He would get maybe 300 on all 4. So that really caught my attention. I was like, wow, this seems like a real shady way to make their salaries appear less egregious. Let me give you an example, Didi.
Tex, he even speaking on Elon even come out and said, hey, my time was limited there. You couldn't have but so many days there. And when you start finding all this stuff, it pisses a lot of people off. You know what I'm saying? I watched that interview with him, but you're right though.
If on TP USA, Charlie Kirk's salary was 1.6 million, that would catch attention.
But legally, he couldn't be there but so
An
long.
auditor would catch that. But if it's 400,000, that's a little more reasonable.
But why would people care if you split that up into 4, but it still shows up? Even if it don't show up as one big lump sum, you're still paying the same amount of taxes, correct?
No, they care. I'm saying optically, because no one's going to look at these other 3 nonprofits.
Okay.
They didn't know how to
You know what
find
I'm
them.
saying? If you're going to look at just Turning Point, because no one even knows these other 3 nonprofits exist. So this hides, like I said, optically, it makes it feel like, oh, Charlie's salary isn't that outrageous. It's 400,000. You know, that to me is the only reason why I could think of, because why would he need 4 salaries from 3 companies that he doesn't do anything for?
Right. And is there any, because I know some people may think about this, and I thought about this too. Is there not any legal loopholes that you're aware of where they're allowed to do this? Maybe it's suspicious, but it's not illegal.
Yeah, I would say it's probably not illegal, because you have to remember who writes the laws. These guys. The whole nonprofit system was developed by rich people for this reason, to circumvent taxes, to be able to sell stock without paying capital gains through their nonprofit, move dark money, money laundering. So yeah, if we're basing this on legality, in this example, I don't think Charlie Kirk broke any law, but very dishonest, because he's putting in 40 hours a week and he's working 120 hours a week. He has a radio show every day. Where are the hours in the day? He allegedly has 2 kids and a wife. Where, you start to look at it and you go, where are the hours to do all of this?
Right.
And
Now,
that's a fair question.
Yeah, it is a fair question. And I want to say, would you say that from because this audit is from what years? As early as 2018?
A little bit of 2017, but yeah, I would say the real meat of it is like 2018 to 2023.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I remember now. I know what it means, but for those that may not understand what it means, explain in layman terms, Brian, what is it that you mean when you say dark money?
So dark money, the way I think of it and the way I think most people is, it's a way to hide money. So for example, if I'm a donor, maybe I don't want people knowing I gave Turning Point $10 million. So through this nonprofit system, there's ways to circumvent these sort of laws that were put in place where you did need to be transparent about your donations. And one way that can.
Hey, and in one point in this video, he talks about how he got to Trump, and it shows the money trail, and it's very, very alarming.
Be done, and we may get into that in a little bit, is the fundraising. Charlie Kirk and Turning Point used their own insiders to create LLC to manage these fundraiser payments. And now if I'm some rich donor, I don't want anyone to know, I can give that LLC the 10 million and it's never going to come up. It's just going to show, the gross total. It's not going to be a line item where we can see who gave that 10 million. So that's dark money. Dark money is just a way to hide my donation.
Got it.
Yeah. I think another really interesting thing that jumped out to me was the relationship relationship between Charlie Kirk, Donald Trump Jr., and a guy named Sergio Gore, who's high up in the Trump administration. So to me, again, technically, maybe this is illegal, maybe it's not. But this is pretty insane. If you're someone who's donated to a Turning Point and now you see where your money just went. Trump Jr. started a publishing arm called Winning Team Publishing. And just in 2022 alone, Turning Point gave almost $500,000 to them. For what reason? They're a publisher, right? They publish books. Oddly enough, Charlie Kirk's book was published by them. So this is the reverse of what happens, right? A publisher usually pays you in advance when you write a book, but instead Charlie Kirk is paying them, and it just keeps going. Then the next year he gives another 164,000, 333,000. These are monster numbers. 640,000, like almost $1 million goes to Sergio Gore and Donald Trump Jr. And the reason why, and I'm only speculating, but I heard this from people at events, Trump Jr. couldn't sell his book. So what I'm guessing happened is Turning Point with the donated bought the book and they were giving it away at events. And then he gets to get on the Amazon, top chart or whatever for book sales when they're really not real book sales. It's not like you and I went on Amazon and bought Trump Jr.'s book. Turning Point buys it. Turning Point gives it away. And it's also a quid pro quo. How does Charlie Kirk get such access to the White House? Well, if I give Donald Trump's son $500,000 through my nonprofit and Sergio Gore, I have access. When I need Trump, I can get Trump. If you remember when they went to Greenland, who went to Greenland? Sergio Gore, Donald Trump Jr., and Charlie Kirk. That's kind of interesting, So
yeah, and because I did a little bit of research when everything first happened, I did a little bit of research on Charlie Kirk and the whole Turning Point USA and how he met William Montgomery, who was 72 at the time. Charlie Kirk was 18. That was awkward to me. It's not like it's that's not illegal, but it's like a 72-year-old saw an 18-year-old speaking at a community college, saw the potential, convinced this person not to go to college and to start Turning Point USA in a garage. And I believe within 4 years, within 2 years, he was on a campaign run with Donald Trump Jr. to help Donald Trump and his president. I'm like, how did that happen so fast?
Yeah. And another thing is, everyone, I urge to go back and watch Charlie Kirk's original interview on Fox News. It's in 2012, I believe. So right before he starts Turning Point, he doesn't say anything provocative. He doesn't say anything interesting. And yet they're just beating us over the head. This is the next genius. This is the future of the Republican Party. This is the next big thing. And that struck me as odd.
In 2012?
Whenever he's 18. So
that's 2012.
Okay. Yeah.
Sure.
So yeah, he's on Fox News. It's like May, I think. And then Turning Point gets started. So I guess the idea would be like William Montgomery saw this interview, but if you watch it objectively, again, he's not saying anything where you're so blown away by it. And another thing that this leads to, he never mentions Christ. He never mentions Jesus. He never mentions Christianity. He's an economic guy in the beginning. It's all about like fiscal independence, fiscal responsibility. And I don't know if they didn't want this to get out, but I found their business plan. It's 100 pages. It's called the 1023. This is what you release to the IRS when you're going to become a nonprofit. In 100 pages, he never mentions any of those things. Never mentions Republican, Christian, Jesus. None of that's mentioned.
No way.
I'll send it to you when we get off, and you could definitely post it, in the, I don't know how it works in the details or however YouTube works.
Part of why that's so difficult to believe is the obvious, because that was a big part of his brand, which is really what made him stand out or stood out over the past 4 years. But even more so, that's kind of hard for me to believe, because Candace Owens just recently said in her episode yesterday, when did Turning Point become so faith-based? It's been faith-based over the past 3 or 4 years at a level that she had never seen before. And this is before Turning Point faith. So that's really what it reminded me of. So now to hear the inception of Turning Point USA had nothing to do with Jesus or Christ or Republican. It's like, that's interesting.
It's very heavy on economics. Very heavy like that. Like, I mean, again, they just beat you over the head with economics, where it's clear, like for young people, essentially fiscal responsibility. Don't take on too much debt. We need to educate people who are getting college loans. We need to help show people how to buy homes and invest. It's like, it's all about that. There is no mention. And it's even apolitical. So they make it very clear in the 1023, we're not taking a side politically. No Republican, no Democrat. We're literally just about helping educate people on how to manage their finances and how to become financially independent. And that's throughout the 100 pages. Wow. So we can post that here later. I'll email it to you. I'll get the document, and that way everyone can just read this stuff for themselves. We should be as transparent as we can. And again, because all this is on the IRS, You know, this is their own words. This isn't ours. And they've signed these documents.
Ha!
So, because I get this a lot, Didi. Well,
I get your potential, but listen, my thing is people need to see this, right? And I know a lot of people won't go and watch this unless we just hanging out bullshitting and watching it, because it gives you a different insight about who the fuck this dude was.
Charlie's
Not
so
trying to
busy, he didn't
smear his
read all of
name,
this.
but-
That's not my problem. Once you sign something, that's not fair to come back to me and be like, come on, be realistic. He can't read all this stuff. You can't have it both ways. If you're going to run $100 million business, then you have to be, I'm sorry, you have to be accountable when this sort of stuff comes up. You don't get to play each side of, hey, I'm busy doing my radio show all day. I'm traveling, you know, I'm debating transgenders at college campus. Like you can't do. So I'm sure he didn't read this, but either way, his name's on it.
Yep.
So, you know, that's the deal there. You mentioned William Montgomery. That's the guy in his 70s that founded Turning Point with Charlie. What's fascinating about him? He's the original when it comes to insider laundering. And we know this because at the bottom of one of his IRS filings, he had to admit it. So he had his own company called, let me just.
So he literally trained Charlie on how to do this shit. Yeah, people keep their head in the fucking sand for sure, Tex, for sure. And I was one of them people too. I'm not, you know,
Get the name here. America Consulting.
there's just so
and
much
Graphics.
more shit
And it
that's
received
important going on.
$432,000 from Turning Point. And this is exactly what Turning Point does now. And that was William Montgomery back in 2017 and 2018.
Wait, but are you saying that he admitted in a file that he had been found guilty?
No, not guilty. He's getting ahead of it because if you admit it, then you can't be guilty. You're saying I have this LLC that receives money from Turning Point. And I guess when you do that, it's legal because it's on own IRS filing.
You can start a company or you can co-found a company that would eventually become $100 million annual company. But you can also start a subsidiary or LLC. Maybe it's not even the subsidiary. And you can donate to that, even though you're over both.
Here's
That
how
has
you
to
get
be
it.
illegal somewhere.
It would be, except instead of donating, it gets listed as a vendor. So services,
Even
maybe-
you're over both.
because it's services. If it's a donation, that's different. Well, for example, maybe an easier way to think of it. Let's say you and I start a nonprofit, and on the
Mhm.
side, I have a company that makes hats. So in theory, I could get that business to make hats that has our name of the nonprofit. And I make hats that say Didi has a podcast. They would say, well, he did do a service. He did make the hats. So that's how they get around it. But what's funny is in the case of Charlie Kirk's insiders, they didn't even bother doing that. They didn't even bother faking making
Wait,
hats. They just created an LLC at their home address.
Listen, wait till you see how many people that worked at Turning Point were getting fucking paid through these LLCs. Now, and Charlie's probably the one that turned them onto it and didn't even realize it.
As one employee, and then it gets all the money for services.
And it's
Yeah.
these absurd numbers.
Absurd numbers, which we'll get into. But I just wanted to make note of the William Montgomery thing because I think it's reasonable to think maybe that's where all this started. Montgomery shows Charlie Kirk and whoever else there, you know, how this works. And that would be why ever since then, his crew did that.
So
Well,
if, because I read that in the article, but if that's possible, then why would Charlie Kirk then order a Doge style audit if he already knows what's going on?
Okay, so now I'm going to have to speculate here, right? Because I'm not inside Turning Point. Number one, what I found most odd about that is the name he named to run that, Justin Strife. Justin Strife himself is involved in this. So is he going to remove his own company? He has a company that gets money from Turning Point. It was called America. Let me get the exact name. American Philanthropic. 2.5 million they received from Turning Point, and it's even on his own LinkedIn. So
Doing what though? Or at least what do they have it listed as the service that they provide?
I don't know if I have that right in front of me, but we could pull that up because I have all
Okay.
their financials saved. But and a lot of their services are vague. You know, like I don't know. In the case of American Philanthropic, it might be managing the fundraisers.
Hmm.
Could be that. So why I found the Charlie Kirk email odd? It's just you're naming the guy.
I don't know, straight
involved in
shooter.
this. So
I don't-
get back
I
to
don't
biting
know.
the hand that feeds you. He's going to do a Doge style.
I thought the funeral procession thing they had for him was awful fucking weird. It was all about how much money they could raise. It looked very, very wild to me. But nah, I don't think he's alive. I mean, the dude's in jail, right?
On himself. It's no different than Elon Musk. The biggest government contractor is Elon
Hey,
Musk.
but I'll tell you this. What's even fucking weirder is there's a never mind. We'll say that for a different time. But when we play that, it's going to blow y'all's fucking mind at who's in it, what happens, and what the people's names are.
Musk. So when
Right.
Doge
Him and Vivek
works
Ramaswamy.
out his own contracts,
Yeah.
how is this any different? It's a strange email to be sending that on September 2nd, and then he allegedly dies on, I forgot the date, September 10th.
Yeah.
It just seems very odd for that to
Very,
happen that quick. I
very,
also don't see
very,
how
very
Charlie
weird.
Kirk didn't know, because he was I mean, how did he get his 4 houses? He never thought to himself, this is weird.
Charlie Kirk had 4 houses?
I believe, if I'm wrong, maybe 3. But yeah, he had a nice beachfront in Florida, Arizona.
This ain't even
America's
the part
living
that I
good.
give a fuck about.
Very good. Yeah, and so does Tyler, lives very good as well. They all do. Stacey Sheridan lives very good.
Yeah, that never stopped them from sending out emails and asking for donations, and they've allegedly made almost $100 million since everything happened in Utah from, I believe, merchandise and donations alone.
You're right. Yeah, and that's my prediction. The next financial release, we'll see $100 million in revenue. Yeah. Look, Charlie Kirk's like Kurt Cobain, if you're old enough, right? The CD sales go up after he died, not down. And this is the new Kurt Cobain. This is the new Martyr. This is the new. It's just Tupac, another one. It's a very tried and true formula they use. They know we're emotional. They know how to reel us in after an event like this. And then you donate. It's like the skinny dog on TV. Oh man, I feel bad for that dog. Let me give money to it's the same thing. They're going to break 100 million, no doubt. Plus more donors are coming in, not less. I also don't believe that less big donors. It's going to be the opposite. It's going to be more.
I also saw, and I learned from your audit, Benny Johnson. I didn't know that Benny Johnson co-founded a company called Arsenal Media Group and was paid $613,000, $750,000 in 2020. But then
all these dudes were cashing in. Everybody that we look to for a source of kind of information is fucking cashing in on this shit. We're being played, people.
He conveniently omitted this from his bio on Turning Point USA, but then he would later, just a year later, begin working directly for Turning Point USA, earning an annual salary of $164,000.
What are the odds? I will say in his defense, and I don't know if he saved the tweet or not, he denied owning Arsenal. But I mean, if you go to the Wayback Machine, there's old tweets from his Twitter, talking about work he's done with them. There's like websites that have covered this. So, I mean, best case for him, maybe he didn't own it and he was a partner, but no doubt he was deeply involved. So he's unable to get out of this.
Right.
But that's the swamp. That's how all these guys are connected. That's why they always show up the next year. Same with Charlie Kirk's security guy, like all of that. They all happen to just get on the payroll with someone else, then show up the next year.
And I also see here in 2024, Turning Point Action, quote unquote, donated $2.04 million to the Turning Point PAC. Now, Brian, I'm gonna need you to explain to me what is Turning Point PAC? What is that?
This part right here is where people really need to start paying attention to what this man's saying.
We talked earlier about dark money. This would be the best example to use for dark money. So Turning Point USA legally can't be like sponsoring and helping elections, but a super PAC can, right? So you take the money from Turning Point. Now legally you can say, I didn't help Trump. I didn't help Carrie Lake. I didn't help, fill in the blank politician. So they donate from Turning Point to the PAC. Then the PAC pumps all these guys with money.
And I'm almost willing to bet that it came from Turning Point Action in particular on purpose because it's a 501c4.
501c4, exactly. Right. Yep, you got it. And another reason why they do this with the PAC, remember how I said earlier, Charlie Kirk isn't going to pay himself $1.6 million a year because that draws too much attention. Same with donating. So this guy, Jake Hoffman, they don't want to show they've given him 10 million. So you give 2 million through the PAC, you give 2 million here, you know what I mean? You give 2 million there, and it makes it a lot harder to find. That's why this took me time, because you got to go through all of these different organizations to figure out how much in total these guys have received. So that's why the PAC is very beneficial to them. Just back to dark money, hiding money. Also inbound dark money. If some big guys give money to the PAC, sometimes we can see it, sometimes we don't. So it just serves a lot of purpose.
It is wild, man.
Let me see if
it's not right either, right?
Before maybe
me and you, we make fucking 100,000 a year. They want to tax the fuck out of us, and there ain't no way we can get out of it. These motherfuckers making millions and hiding every fucking bit of it.
If you want, well, I can do like a minute just on the endowment, because I think that's interesting. So in 2018,
there's like 2 different endowments or something, or maybe 2 or 3.
2, yeah. So again, it's really amazing what Turning Point does. So they have the endowment fund, which is specifically for, you could argue, like protecting your assets, right? So you take a bunch of cash, put it in.
Hey, and you can see the ones that don't want to hear it or not interested in it, but that just goes to show that like these people are so fucking out of tune. It doesn't matter what you say to them, they're not going to fucking get it. Their brain level is on a different wave, right? But like I said in the beginning, if you want to get rich, start a nonprofit.
in whatever,
Exactly,
a bond
great
or a
why.
stock, and it sits there and
Exactly.
it grows interest, except it grew up to 100 million between TPUS investments and the endowment.
Do y'all, if any of y'all ever watch my lives when I'm fishing, y'all see that real big sailboat that's out there? It's like 150, maybe even a little bit more than that feet long. Them people have a non-fucking profit. They get so much money a year. It's fucking wild.
So now I got to ask myself, why does a nonprofit need 100 million? And I don't know the answer, but I think we should get an answer. If Charlie Kirk wanted this Doge thing so bad, can someone find out why they need 100 million in investments? That's, you know, and then on top of it, just to reiterate,
Yeah, what?
why would he need a salary from the endowment?
Straight shooter, do not pay attention to any fucking big figure you see on the internet. None of them on either fucking side, because they're all full of shit. They're all trying to just lead you down a road where they can fucking pick your pocket.
Company. He's not, man. Like, there's a precedent for this. Other nonprofits do this, but they'll pay the
They're
guy
all
zero
corrupt, Diamond.
because they know how bad
Every
that
one of
works,
them.
you know. So you'll see
Right on.
Charlie Kirk, CEO of endowment.
Right on down to Trump. You can't tell me this shit that he don't know this shit. It's just like with fucking Biden and his son, you know, except for the Republicans kept putting it out there about him.
And then it'll show 0 work hours, 0 pay. But in this case, you know, that's not what they did. So it's just a really fair question to ask. Why did they need so much? And how did they grow it so fast? I mean, I think 3 years prior to the current year, it's 1.7 million.
It jumped like 50, 60,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, how? Is this Nancy Pelosi with like the greatest investments ever? I mean, how does that happen? You know, this feels more like a financial, I hate to say Ponzi, but it really does than anything, because some of these numbers, they just don't add up.
It went from 20 million to 65 million.
Right. On the endowment. Yep.
On the endowment.
Yeah.
And Turning Point Endowment nonprofit, which holds 38 million in securities, making their total 103 million.
And that's, again, I'm combining the endowment in TPUSA and that. So I don't know. That just feels very significant. 100 million to me is not a small number, and I think it's worth asking questions.
Yeah, Diamond, that's a
Do
whole.
you mind if I pull up?
Hey, that's a whole different fucking thing. But you're exactly right about that shit. And we'll watch that video too one day. But you gotta be careful how you go about watching Tucker Carlson shit. But I got a theory about that too. And I kind of said it this morning.
The audit.
No, not wrong.
Okay, let's pull it up. Yeah. So let's all right.
Okay. Specific section you want me to jump to, or just kind of keep going?
No, yeah, just do your thing, and I'll just go to that section.
Okay. I feel like we really should hit the insiders, because actually, out of everything, I think that's the most egregious, the most problematic, and I think it's the hardest for Turning Point to honestly explain.
Okay, what page is it on?
I'm looking now to just try and get you there quick. I think it's around page 9. So the title is Turning Point Launders Millions to Insiders.
Got it.
And,
Are you able to see that on the screen?
Yep.
Perfect.
So like I said, I think this is probably the worst, because there's just no reason to explain this. And I believe every case here, the LLC has no business. We can't find a website. Like, what do they do? How many employees do they have? Nothing. And then a lot of times the create date is right before the date that they got started here. So it's not like a wild speculation to go, oh, that's what happened. They create the LLC, Turning Point pumps the business to that LLC, and they cash in. And if we look at the first person here, Stacy Sheridan, she has 3
Straight
LLCs,
up, Brian.
while also being
Straight
a
up.
full-time Turning Point executive. And they get massive business. You know, each some get, what was it, 5 million her LLCs received. But for what? And it's for only 3. So between 2020 and 2023, she's getting $5 million. What did they do? Where are they now? Why don't they have business from other companies, right? If she's some genius that created some brilliant, business, you would think maybe other companies would jump in.
Right.
No, not that I can find. It's just Turning Point, and it's for things that wouldn't require work, like processing these fundraiser payments. That's probably just something in a system.
Yeah, that's fucking
she's not like
automated.
sitting there manually doing anything. She's not. There's
That
nothing
shit's
to
automated. Fuck QuickBooks can do that shit.
that. That to me is just easy money for her. And I can tell you this, and obviously I can't say who. People within Turning Point call her grifter in chief. This is known. Now,
Rich, if you want to jump up, you can come in through the back door. I'm on your damn shit there. Matter of fact.
it's not known to the extent I uncovered, but this is known because you can't hide something like this. You know what I mean? Turning Point's not that big. Financially, it's big, but in terms of personnel, it's not that big. So, I think they just don't know whatever, like connect the dots like this because, it takes time to hunt and peck through all these different filings. But if anything, she's like proud of this, because just the way she flaunts it.
Mhm.
And then next, who is equally as bad is this guy, Jake Hoffman. I can't find anything of value Jake Hoffman has added. And yet he's got two different LLCs. One is called 110. One is called Rally Forge. And they just get millions, literally millions a year. In total, 9.8 million.
So in 2018, he was the communications director for Turning Point. So that's his official, or as of 2018, that was his official title.
Per their own
But
filing.
then he
Yep.
got over 700,000 went to his company.
Correct. Which is an ad agency. I don't know what they would do to earn 720.
As we speak, DD just updated his page saying that he's got bombshell information about this damn Turning Point USA audit shit. So we'll probably turn in on it. Tune in on it. It goes live.
21,000.
That's a lot of money, man.
This is how you pay guys off. I mean, Google wouldn't even charge you that, would they? For ads, would they charge you 720,000 to advertise your YouTube channel?
No.
So
Man.
how do you justify that, right? How do you justify 700 a year?
Devil's advocate. What if someone said, "Well, you don't understand because you don't have a business of this scale. We have to pay major dollars in order to push our company out there to get us in those algorithms so that you can see Charlie Kirk everywhere debating."
Yeah, that's fair. So then I would expect to see Google, Twitter, Facebook, I don't know, like maybe Fox News, not 110. Who's 110? He's like,
May be wrong, but I think Google's like the leading fucking advertisement for anything for an algorithm. Google pretty much dominates it, right? Because I know that we pay for ads in our area, and the person who pays the most every day, you have to bid on this, right? So you bid on it, and then it gets to a certain amount. And as long as you pay it, you'll be the first one at the page. It would be the same with fucking this shit here.
I think that's very fair. Then I would expect a heavy hitter. If I started a company, that's the first place I would go. I wouldn't go to Jake Hoffman and hope my 720,000 gets me a return on my investment for ads. Can anyone say he brought back that value to Turning Point? I've heard interviews with him. He sounds low intelligent, and this is not being mean. Sounds low intelligent. So I'm not.
No offense. And this is no shade. It's truly not, because I don't think either of us will say the same about Charlie, regardless of our differences that we may feel about him. Charlie was a bright person. I feel what you just said about Jake. I feel that way about a couple of people at TPUSA. A few people I've heard speak from there. I'm like, not the brightest,
Tyler
but their
Boyer.
salaries don't reflect that.
It's actually the opposite. The higher the salary, the dumber they are. Like Tyler Boyer.
The higher the salary, the dumber they are.
He's the best example of that. He has these childlike meltdowns on Twitter, but never provides any evidence. Just provides emotional meltdown. That's a sign, to me at least, of low intelligence. Because if you come at me, I'm going to provide evidence.
And disprove everything that you're saying. The same thing with Mikey McCoy right now. Mikey McCoy, I'm sure.
And that's the sad part about it, Info Warriors. It's not how good your business is, and it should be, all the better reviews, the higher you get put on the page. It's not about that. It's about how much money you fucking spend, and it's straight bullshit. So the dude with the most money wins.
You've seen the questions and people telling him to provide a call log. Mikey McCoy is constantly tweeting about Charlie Kirk, pictures and videos of him. It completely getting destroyed in the comment section. People asking him, just provide your call log, man. We want to know who you called. Your behavior was weird that day. Nothing.
Yeah. Also, I have a piece coming out on Mikey McCoy, similar to what.
Listen to what he says right here.
Very, very interesting.
Okay.
His father
He's
himself.
22, 23 years old. There's something on him too.
Oh yeah, him, his father, his friend, and I won't say too much because it's coming out soon. I'll send it to you, and we can redo this if you want. And
Okay.
a very shady private lender that it's wild. I mean, I'll
Okay.
send it to you. But so yeah, hard to trust Mikey McCoy when you've uncovered some of the other stuff that I have as well. And I think he'll probably use a Tyler Bauer sort of explanation, just get very childlike and not provide any evidence. But yeah, this Jake Hoffman stuff back to him is really wild to get 9.8 million. We can be fair and play devil's advocate. Why not 100,000 for services, right? Why not 200,000? 9.8 million? And that's like acceptable when you don't have a website, you don't have a business plan. It should not be acceptable.
I was looking, I was trying to add these numbers up. No, you're right. It's right there. 9.8 total. Oh my gosh. And this is over what? A 4-year period? 6-year period.
Yeah, but the bulk of it is really like 3 to 4 years because, some years it's a little lighter. You got to remember from COVID on, Turning Point was killing it in terms of revenue. So of course, that's when they then helped out their guys, even more because they had more money to give out. And even here, between just January, August of 2025, he already got 496,000 for what?
That makes no sense.
Or he's running Turning Point. Tyler Bauer's running Boyer. I got to get his name.
Boyer.
So I'm so sorry. Tyler Boyer. Maybe they're the ones running Turning Point. Because I don't know how you explain how much money those two, particularly, Hoffman, are getting. It's really.
And these are coming in the forms of, because here's the thing. I'm also trying to play devil's advocate here. If people are looking at these numbers, is it possible that these numbers that we're seeing, Brian, are not take-home dollars? Maybe it's money that, sure, their business may have, but maybe they're not allowed to actually spend it as they so please.
Okay,
Is
so
that possible?
It could be possible, but here's why it's hard in this case. If he had 5 employees, I could say, well, yeah, his business got 490,000, but now he's got to pay, right, his employee 100K. If you have 1 employee and your business is registered to your home address, where could the money, like, how are you divvying out that money? Do you know what I mean? So you make a great point. And again, it would be possible. That's why I use the hat example. If we're making hats, that's not as egregious.
At least put the effort in to make it appear more believable.
Right, because I'm spending the money on material for the hats. I'm spending money on, machines to make
Shit
hats.
looks
I have
fucking
employees, I
wild.
give them benefits. Then it's like, all right, it's just, maybe I'm missing something. It's hard to play devil's advocate when you have 1 employee. I'm sorry. It just is like.
And even if you had 5 employees, 9.8 million, man. Wow.
Also, there's only so many hours in the day. I thought he's busy working for Turning Point. See, when you have a day job, shouldn't your day job, you work 40, and yet you're so amazing, you can generate 9.8 million in your spare time. I need to learn how what he's doing in his, so then you and I can maybe start one of these great businesses.
Right.
What secret sauce does he have? And again, the interviews tell me a different story. They come across, I don't know how else to say it, low information, low intelligent. They don't seem like these sharp, efficient guys that are developing these systems, that would warrant this. But, we can go a little more. This Joshua Tyfault, same thing, right? Starts an LLC called Blue Mountain Strategies. And then, of course, it gets 129,000 here, 400,000 there. And then in total, 745,000, while on top of getting a massive annual salary. He's below Jake Hoffman. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it's not enough that he's getting 441,000 as his base pay. He then has to create an LLC and get, a couple 100,000 more. You would think the 441 pay would be enough.
And then it says here, their website literally doesn't offer any information about the company.
Nope. Unless they changed it since I wrote this report. And outside of Turning Point, this is a very common thing you see with these money laundering things. They start websites just as a front. So they're not going to invest 10,000 in a nice website because the company's fake. You know what I mean? So
Hey, and here in just a minute, they bring up the fucking insurance policy that was wrote that they were talking about in the very beginning of the video. And man, like, what the fuck is going on?
just a front website, just to on the surface appear like, okay, we have a website.
Right.
And then with Justin Strife, we talked about earlier, he's the executive partner, and yet he's going to run the Doge. About him, he's the only one that admits the company on his LinkedIn. All these other guys conveniently typically don't have it on their LinkedIn's.
And not Turning Point itself, but you mean these other companies?
Yeah. So like
American Philanthropic is listed.
Yeah, like he actually has that on his LinkedIn, but like Stacy Sheridan and these others, they leave it off. And that struck me as odd because if you're not doing anything wrong, show us Clover Mountain, whatever that's called, Clover Mountain Ventures, GSM, put it on your LinkedIn, right?
Right.
It's your business. Put it on your Twitter. Put it on your social media. Why do they leave that off? To me, you shouldn't leave it off. you know, so I give this guy credit. He doesn't hide it. It's right there on his LinkedIn. And then we get to the email. Like I said, he's in the email.
Right.
It's very strange that he's the one that was named. Justin Olson, not as egregious, but he's got a state job for Arizona State, conflict of interest because he's the commissioner. And then later we're going to find because he's the commissioner, he helped Perfeed Technologies get out of something they were caught up in.
Now, I believe this guy is possibly the one that Brian Ferentz mentioned. He's had interactions with in Arizona. And because I remember asking him, how is this not a conflict of interest that you're working these two jobs that are sort of overlapping? And Brian was telling me, to his understanding, he didn't understand how it wasn't a conflict of interest either.
How can it not be? And we have proof they used it as a conflict of interest because his name is on the letterhead later when we look at Superfeed, where they received a letter basically saying you're going to get shut down, you can't operate because you didn't meet certain compliance, and then nothing happened to them. So you would think, oh, well, that's convenient when the Turning Point guy is running that. Maybe that, you know, so it's a major conflict of interest. To me, I don't know how this could be allowed. Also, we got to remember, there's only so many hours in the week. How do all of these guys have families and kids and they have 10 different jobs? I know we're in a work from home environment, but this is like work from home on steroids. I mean, I don't get, you know. And then the last one we talked about, William Montgomery, really interesting how, you know, he did exactly what they do now. So then, so we talked about the fundraiser. I just want to recap because it's really mind-boggling. If you were to look at other companies who process fundraiser payments, they're not 22 million, 30 million like Turning Point was doing, which just struck me as then the only reason why they're doing that is to, again, funnel more money to the insiders, because the insiders create the LLC that then processes these fundraiser payments. And I don't know what else would the reason be. On top of it then being dark money, like I said earlier, someone can give $10 million at one of these events and give it to the intermediary, which would be the LLC. The LLC acts as the custodian, then they cut the check to Turning Point. So because it's done that way, we don't know who actually is the source of the check. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, got it. So, and then more, I just talked about, the different dark money sort of things they're using. Well, if you want to scroll down to page 15, it's going to be a little small. Yeah, I wanted to show, unfortunately, it's a little small for the video, but maybe we can fix it in post. This really is telling, right? This is it right here from their own filing. So what we're looking at is, this is the fundraiser name, and I'm looking at only the insiders. So anyone who was on Turning Point payroll at the time, I wanted to see how much they made. And this is wild to me. This is absolutely crazy. So near the end, amount paid to fundraiser. So that's how much they made for just like processing these payments. And these are some big amounts.
What? So GSM Strategies,
Which is Stacy Sheridan.
So is this 1 year?
So this Cloverstone Ventures guy, amount paid to Turning Point, $15 million. Amount paid to fundraiser, $500,000. That is fucking crazy. That's crazy.
Different years?
Year. On the far right, I have the year. So 2018 would be the first. Yes. Yeah, so
okay.
It's broken down by year.
So Stacy Sheridan, by way of two different companies, made more than $6 million. More than $6 million was paid to her.
No. You want to look at amount paid to fundraiser.
Amount paid to fundraiser.
So that
okay.
So that's how much goes to them.
200,000.
And then I'm showing how much Turning Point, because there's a cut. She's taking a cut.
Makes sense.
But in some cases, why are the cuts massive? If you look a little bit down, Justin Strife, he's getting 36%. So it's all over the place. There's not even a standard percentage. You would think, hey, Turning Point, we have a rate. Let's say 5%, right? Anyone who helps us manage these fundraising payments and all that, you get 5%. This to me just seems wild. Some are as low as 2%. Some are as high as 35%. How would you justify and come up with these percentages? Arbitrary?
Exactly. Because what I was wanting to say was, it seems to me the higher the number, maybe the lower the percentage, but that's actually not the case. It's all over the place. You have 9 million paid to Turning Point, and then 6% is paid out to them. That's crazy. That's crazy.
It made me think the insider is the one who decides, not Charlie Kirk and Turning Point.
What, and I know this is speculation, what would dictate them fluctuating between numbers? Like, how do you decide if you're going to do 36% And that's not going to raise a red flag as compared to maybe doing just 4%.
So I've thought about that a lot. And the only conclusion I could come to is another way to try and, even though they didn't do a good job, stay off the radar. So if you're only charging 2%, someone would just be like, oh, that doesn't look that bad. 2%, that seems fair. She's only getting 96,000. Someone would use the word only. So again, back to optically, it doesn't, to me, it's bad, but we're all about optics. And I know these people because I'm in finance. I know exactly how these people think. I've been in meetings with them, not them specifically, but I'm saying in general, I know all these conversations, how they go. And that would be how
What up, Kay?
would be exactly that. Hey, if we just do 2%, we're just skimming. Remember how the mafia would skim?
Yep.
We're just skimming, just a little off the top for Stacy. No one's going to notice, but it's speculating, but I think that would be why. But on the flip side, someone could say, hey, she helped bring in 3.9 million. Why not charge more? You got Turning Point, $3.9 million here, 5%, 8%, 10%. Why are you only asking for 2%?
Right.
So either way, it's a lose-lose for her. To me, meaning like, I don't know how she can explain it.
Right. There would still be questions regardless.
There's still, and it's all these guys. John McGovern, he didn't even try hiding it. His name is John McGovern, and he was at Turning Point. I forgot his position, some kind of director. And then he has his name right on here. I think it's the fourth to the bottom.
Yeah.
He need, like, at least these guys create a company. He said, oh, I'm not even going to bother. Who cares? Just pay me. And sure enough, he gets, I believe, 26,000. So yeah, if we ask ourselves, is this legal? I'm actually not sure. But to me, legality aside, especially from a Christian perspective,
It's unethical.
it's totally unethical, immoral. And why don't the donors know about this? Because the way we need to think of this, imagine yourself giving $1. Don't you want to know how many cents of that dollar
I do.
went aligned with the mission?
Yes. And not only that, it's clear to me, and I think it's been clear to many people since everything has occurred over the past couple of months, that the donors actually do care, as many donors have reportedly pulled their funds because of the things that have been taking place. They feel like certain questions have not been answered. And so clearly they care about getting clarity on things that are important regarding the organization. So I think that alone tells me that what we're discussing right now, they had no clue, or they have no clue.
They have no clue, yeah. And another reason how I know they have no clue, I don't know if you know this, but typically a nonprofit on their website, they release an annual report. Some call it like an impact report.
Yep.
Some call it like a company overview. And then in a separate section, they also release these 990s. Turning Point does neither. Someone doesn't believe me, go on their website. There is no impact report. There's no annual report. I couldn't find anything. And I think that's crazy because they're a $100 million company.
Yeah.
I should see, hey, what are my objectives for 2025, right? These are my objectives. These are my milestones.
Hey, Tex, it's funny you say that because I believe he talks about that in one of these videos where I'd seen him.
These are KPIs, key performance indicators. In other words, how do we measure? If you donated $1, how do we measure that dollar went right to the mission? We don't get any of that. So for these guys, remember earlier you said you got that email about the audit and all of that?
Yep.
I would have responded, where's the report? Forget an audit. You guys don't even provide an annual report. Nothing. What are you hiding? For all these guys that make 400,000, none of them can make a report. These directors, 440,000, can't sit down and make a report. That's crazy to me. I made this report, it's not. So we should really hammer them on that too. Again, not illegal to not make a report, but very what are you hiding? I mean, companies far worse do it. The Gates Foundation provides the report, the Clinton Foundation, the Soros Group, all these really bad nonprofits still provide that. And from what I can tell, Turning Point doesn't. What else? So we have their salary expenses. I mean, when Candace mentioned how Charlie couldn't figure out where all the cash goes, someone should have just sent him this. He doesn't even need an audit. Look, they burn through all the money insanely. I mean, between conferences, events, and I get it, events are expensive, but when you're spending 21 million just on events, right there, out of your 80 million. So I don't feel like it's that hard to figure out where the cash goes. I don't know why he would have needed a Doge. You can, pretty quickly understand oh no, they're blowing money. 20 million on salaries. Like I said, 20 million, that's 40 million right there. So if they make 80 million, 40 million is just salaries and conferences.
And then another 7 million on advertisement and promotion. I don't know, man. 7 million sounds like a lot.
Well, not if you're giving it to your friends. So remember, Jake Hoffman does the app, not Google.
Has the ad
any receipts of them paying Google for advertising. They pay 110, whoever the heck that is. you know, so yeah, I mean, this is just
So let me
wild.
ask you, do you believe that it's possible that obviously the unspoken implications here is that they're finding loopholes to fatten their pockets? But my question would be, so if they're pretending as if Jake Hoffman through 110 or whatever it is the company that's quote unquote taking care of the ad promo and things of that sort, who's actually doing it then? And how much is it actually costing them? And where is that showing up? Or maybe it's somewhere in this number, but it's not everything that they're saying that it is.
I think the only way we could get that is we'd have to audit Jake 110, you know, not Turning Point, right? To see like, what are you doing for that money? Because other than that, this is another scam of the nonprofits. They don't get that transactional, that line. That's why it's a great thing for them. You know, they can just put the amount and move on. So
Oh, yeah.
you
No,
can give a guy
they're
the benefit of the
definitely-
doubt, and I think we should.
Yeah, and they're selling this shit dime. They're out there doing some good. They ain't doing nothing but making their life good.
But I think when
It's
numbers
fucking
get this
crazy.
alarming, it becomes harder to give the benefit of the doubt, you know?
This seems like pure corruption to me. And
Yeah.
I'm just speaking for myself. To me, as a Smojo, everything I say is alleged. This is just my opinion. This appears to be corruption to me. Whether it's legal or not, if you're promoting and presenting yourself, positioning yourself as a Christian, as a believer, this is unethical at best and corruption at worst.
I don't see how it's not corruption. I mean, just remember what we started with the Donald Trump Jr. section. Him and Sergio Gore.
Look, and they may not have had nothing to do with the demise of Charlie, but knowing that this is going on would make them act funny. Now, say it wouldn't. You know what I'm saying? Your key speaker has just been taken out. You know all the eyes are going to be on you. And you got this going on and you know it. You
have a publishing house and it's getting 700,000-800,000. That right there, that's corruption. Because for what? For what service? For what value toward the mission? Anytime I look at money that a nonprofit spends, all I care about is, does it align with the mission?
Right.
And if it does, then I move on. And when it doesn't, and it's this much, it has to be corruption. I mean, because if everyone around you is getting rich, isn't that corrupt? Like, I don't know. That just seems a very easy way to understand if there's corruption.
Right.
If all my buddies and my family and everyone I'm connected
when he starts talking about this insurance policy, the premiums and who was paying it, you're going to go, what the fuck?
is all enriching themselves off of my nonprofit. Like, is the world really a better place because of Turning Point? I think that's hard to quantify. That'd be hard to prove because we don't really see that. You know, we just see everyone making more money, buying bigger houses, flying private.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Speaking of that, that's on somewhere in here. It spoke about how much was spent on like private planes or something.
In one of the years, 198 in first class and charter. That's just on the jet. That's not even remember the hotel. Yeah.
And I just really want people. Let me zone it.
Well, if you need the page, it's page 16 right at the bottom.
Okay, but I want to make sure people understand this part. So basically $81 million however, despite making 81 million, let me make sure I'm saying it correctly. Yes, in total 81 million in total expenses. They had at the end of 2023 only $4 million in cash and 5.67 in savings.
And that's per their balance sheet. So again, everything in here is from their own IRS filing. You know, they have a balance sheet, they have an income statement, and that's just what it shows on the balance sheet. So it makes sense in the sense when Candace says, hey, Charlie's worried about blowing the money because they're left with 5 million, you know, 3 million at the end of the year. So they do blow it. And yeah, here's the private jets.
Living a fucking good life is what they're doing.
Oh boy, that's crazy, man.
Yeah, I don't think you're ever going to see
a lot, but that's 200 grand just on the jet.
Just on the jet. How about all the security, the car services that are waiting for him? You know, the hotels. I don't think he's staying at a Red Roof. So you start to look and it's just like, yeah, they're living the good life on the dime of the donor. You know, not like they're adding value. It's just simply on the dime of the donor. I think next we should cover the section right below this. I found this. It's hard to surprise me because I've been doing this so long, and this really took me back. Let's try and like kind of clearly explain
Listen to
what's
this
going on
shit
here.
Okay.
Let me make sure I got the year right. In 2023,
see this property on Craigslist for $4,300 a month? Well, it's been sitting empty for the last 28 days.
I found somewhere near the bottom
Listen to this shit. This is going to blow y'all's mind.
that Charlie Kirk or Erica Kirk, rather, I'm not sure which one, but created an LLC called GGLF. Interestingly, if you know, one of the kids' names is Gigi. I'm speculating. First, let me explain what this is, then I'll speculate as to what I think happened here. So this is not uncommon. You use these life policies in the event if the guy who's running the nonprofit is like the face of the company, right? Elon Musk is the face of Tesla, Charlie Kirk, the face of this. You can kind of protect yourself, I guess, financially. So you take this out. If something happens to him, you get a portion of it, a very small portion, by the way, and then Erica or the beneficiary gets the rest. Timing is odd because it's 2023. Remember, Charlie's been the face of this thing, I would say, at least since 2017. I know it started in 2012, but meaning like where he was on the map, everyone knew. 2017. That it took 6 years.
Yeah, but this right here has to be illegal. And now, how in the fuck do you have a nonprofit pay for your life insurance policy? There's something wrong with that.
Years for them to think, oh, we should get a policy. But so they did anyway. And it's a massive premium, $350,000 a year. It could be upwards of 10, 20 million. Erica's, again, I'm assuming Erica, the beneficiary, is going to get because of how high the premium is, right?
How much are premiums usually? I mean, I know I'm asking you that on the spot. Is it 100,000, 50,000?
I mean, I
Diamond, wait till you see what we cover next about Erica, and it's going to blow your fucking mind.
guess it depends on your net worth. Like someone like me, it's, I mean, way lower. You know, maybe 5,000 a year I was paying for mine, and this is 350. Again, Charlie Kirk is obviously a lot richer than me, but just to put into context,
wow,
I think mine was 4,000 or 5,000 a year.
Wow,
and I pay mine. I love what they did here. Turning Point pays it. So just
and that's totally legal. Well, I guess it would be.
Oh, you know how it's legal? Keyword, it's a loan. But I guarantee you, he would have never paid this back. It's they're loaning it.
So what do you mean he would have never paid it back? So why would you take it out if you wouldn't be able to pay it back?
I don't think anyone. I mean, I'm assuming. I don't think anyone would have ever, because he is Turning Point. So I don't think he would come after himself and say, "Hey, you got to pay this back."
Okay, I see.
You
and
know,
this is legal.
But yeah, if you look at the keyword, it's called loan. So loan to or from interested persons. So on paper, it's a loan, and you know they're just loaning him the money. They're paying the premium for him, and then they get interest back in return if something happens, plus their principal. So in theory, they probably got the 350 back now that he died, but who knows what the beneficiary got, because the 350 is such a large
It could
amount.
be in the tens of millions or something.
Yeah,
like
because
that.
350 is such a large. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so you have to ask yourself, who did this? Did Charlie do this, or did Erica do this? I don't know, because we'll never get to see the policy, but I would love to see the policy, because to me,
Well, Brian, you know, everybody's sitting here boosting this kid up and holding him up like he's just this perfect angel. And really, when you draw the curtain back, it's not what we think it is, you know, and it's crazy to see, man.
it feels like what we've seen now from Erica, she's connected enough. I don't think it's out of the question that she could have finagled something where she did this, you know?
Now, just for the audience clarification, Brian, when you say she's connected enough, are you saying connected enough to Turning Point USA or connected enough to something else?
To something else.
I follow you.
To something else. So
Based on her behavior.
based on her family. Based on her family. And again, that's all documented. We can get into that if you'd like, you know, later down the road. But that's why I say that, because it's just when you're that connected, I don't know if this would be that hard to do where Kirk wouldn't have known. You know, what is it? Just take a stamp of his name, hit the stamp, sign it. You know, the fact that it's Gigi, I thought just caught my attention. That's the daughter's name.
Right.
You know, Gigi,
Allegedly.
that's the name of this.
Right.
Maybe. But either way, even if she didn't do it and Charlie did it, this is very notable.
Yeah, but like you said, why wait now? Why go 6 years and in 2023 all of a sudden now you
That's that GGLF is probably the initials, the first and middle name of both children.
have the idea to create this split dollar life insurance policy?
It's possible they knew he was going to disappear. So if you know he's going to disappear, you know, let's make some money off it. I don't know why else. I just don't know who would wait. Again, I think it's reasonable to wait a few years. If they would have done this in 2020, that wouldn't have caught my attention, because in 2020, he was really elevating his profile. 2019, you know, but 2023, it just feels a bit late. So
Yeah.
I would love to see the policy, because that can answer a lot of questions. How much is the payout? Who's the beneficiary? You know, when, like within 2023, when was this put together? But, you know, unless we have an insider, I don't think we're ever going to see that. But it's, to me, we should not overlook this, is all I'm saying. You know, why exactly this happened, that's speculation, but it happened and it's here. And keep in mind, that's 350 in 23, 24, and 25,
Sheesh.
right? Because he died in 25, so that probably would have already been paid. So someone's getting money off this. And I just think Charlie was rich enough. He should pay a life policy on his own. That's just my own feeling, because I don't think Turning Point should be on the hook for everything he wants to do.
Right.
You know, it's not unreasonable to ask him. You want to go to page 19? We can do that in a minute. It really jumps out to you. So one other thing I like to look at with these nonprofits, who are they donating money to? Because, okay, we see they did
Listen
a lot of
to
shady
this.
stuff, but maybe, and hopefully they're at least giving it to good organizations, right? Except that's not at all what's happening here. And what's really bad is when you look at the 400 million in revenue, only 0.7% has even been donated out to other organizations. And then it gets even worse, because when you look at the organizations, they're not helping like people. Like, this is Reince Priebus. He was the former, I forgot his position, but he was high up in the Trump administration. He's just your typical DC, swamp creature. He's not taking that 1.5 and helping you or I, or helping college students or anything like that. PragerU, we know about PragerU. That's where Charlie came from, a large Zionist organization. James O'Keefe started a new nonprofit, and a few months later, Turning Point cuts him a check for $400,000. That's, again, I think that there's no other way to look at it. Like, this is not going toward the mission statement. It just isn't. And so this should be scrutinized as well, in the sense of, why isn't my money going toward helping the cause?
Right.
I don't know how giving money to PragerU helps my cause. Like, Reince Priebus, like, this is more pay to play type stuff, right? You scratch my quid pro quo. I give money to Reince Priebus. I'm sure on the other end, Reince Priebus does something for Turning Point. That's what that would tell me. Same with PragerU. So really, when you extract all of this, there's almost no money going anywhere in terms of like helping organizations.
That's fucking
Zero,
crazy.
less than 1% of revenue went to outside organizations. It stayed in-house.
Stayed in-house. And again, not illegal, because, you don't like, but an auditor.
But super suspicious, man.
Super suspicious, but not illegal. Yeah. And especially just because of how altruistic on the surface they are.
Right.
So, but then how come the financials don't show that? They show something completely different. They don't show, how much you are about helping the community and all these different things. It's just everyone getting rich around each other. Then we have a quick snapshot of the salaries. I know we talked about it, but if you wanted to pull it up, we can see.
Actually, and before we get here, I hadn't even made it to this part yet, so I have no clue what we're about to read.
So we got a few more bombshells that you'll see then. So here's just, I went to their IRS filing, and I just made a short spreadsheet, showing their annual salary. And it shows exactly what I said, right? 4 different nonprofits, in some cases 3, some cases 4 in 1 year, getting a large salary. How they justify that salary is.
So for those that may have bad on, or may be bad with the eyesight, let me help you out here. So in 2022, I'm seeing 3 different salaries for Tyler Boyer. One from Turning Point USA, one under Turning Point Action, and then one under America's Turning Point, which is probably the one that we've heard the least about before this interview. $240,000 respectively between the 3 of those. And then it increases. It was higher in 2021. And then for Charlie, as of 2023, it's showing 1 salary here, but in 2022 it was 2 separate salaries of $392,000 a piece. Now, what I find interesting is that in 2023 there was only 1. You have any speculation as to why that may be?
No, it's because last I looked, they didn't release 23.
Oh,
so Turning Point Action, if you notice, stops at 22. I mean, maybe as of this interview they have, but as of a few months ago when I did this, they just hadn't released 23 yet.
And to be clear, so this audit was completed? Like, there was no updates since everything that's happened with Charlie? Or are you saying that you since added some things?
Yeah, I actually on September 10th, ironically, is right after that happened, I went and revisited this. So TPUSA had an additional filing, see the 23, that's how I got that. But on these other ones, it was still 2022.
Wow.
And that's also legal. I think it's some crazy lag period, like 18 months.
Yes,
I forgot, but these guys get so much grace.
Basically, what they did is all his friends started at LLC, and he paid them not only for working for Turning Point USA, but he took the money out of Turning Point and paid all these other LLCs to these same guys. It's fucking crazy. It's nasty is what it is. They scammed us.
To file
and they used our fucking emotions. I'd be damned if I let anybody else ever do that.
their tax forms. So I'm pretty sure they haven't broken any law.
I have to say this out loud. It's not even about pocket watching, but this is, I mean, it's public information. And as Brian stated, people donate to these organizations. So it's rightful for people to know where this money is going. In 2019, Charlie Kirk had 4 different salaries: Turning Point Action, TPUSA, Turning Point Endowment, which is the in America's Turning Point, which are the 2 endowments that we spoke about earlier. 284, 329, 329, and 329,000. What? That was 6 years ago. 6 years ago, just this alone, what we can see here. Oh boy.
Why are they the same amounts?
Why are they the same amounts?
Because to my point, and I know I'm speculating, I assumed it's because, like I said, 1.6 million looks bad on paper. So just divide by 4. Because in theory, shouldn't they not be the same amounts? If I'm working for Group A,
it should be different
work than Group B?
Yes, it should depend on your job description. It depends on your hours, worked, and yes, but it's all the same here, which says to me, as I'm sure it says to you, Brian, it's simple math. You just take that 1.6, you split it in 4 ways, and you let the bygones be bygones. Because what is IRS going to say to you? You're paying yourself. How can they prove that you didn't do said job? Right.
I don't know any other explanation. I really don't. I try hard to give benefit of the doubt, but they're the ones that make it hard by doing this. Like we should have seen, for this group, 100,000 salary. For this group, 180. This group, 20 hours. This group, then it's like, all right, that's still bad, but at least they're trying. They're not even trying. Just look at this. They're not even, same with Tyler. Aren't his the same? Yeah, 240, 240, 240. Same exact thing.
Just wait, it gets worse, Yankees.
Ways. Oh my gosh. 2019, 128, 2 different ways. 2020, 260, both times. Oh my gosh, man. 2022 for Charlie Kirk, 392.
And all this information is on the public IRS website. This is real information. This ain't something that this dude just made up.
2021, 395, 4 different ways in 2021. They're all 395, 747. It's the exact same salary for each one. It's the same thing in 2020, 407, 3 times.
And we have to remember, he has a day job. It's not Turning Point, his radio show. Remember the Charlie Kirk show?
That's right. And that's not even Turning Point USA.
So that's why I keep harping on how are there this many hours. He allegedly has a wife, allegedly 2 kids, this job, 4 Turning Point jobs. He tweets all day. Go back to his Twitter. Every 10 minutes, there's
him cutting
a video clip, him tweeting something. And I know he has a team, but again,
he's traveling and he's debating.
So how are you doing this? I can barely manage a job and doing this work on the side and coming on here to talk to you, right? Because you asked me, hey, can you come this time? And I'm trying to finagle. That seems normal because I have to sleep. I have to go to the gym. You have to do things. Right. How is it possible? Or he's not doing anything.
We're expected to believe that this man had 4 different jobs that was paying him $400,000. And to those out there, because Brian, as you and I both know, we're going to have our devil's advocate and our staunch Charlie Kirk supporters to say, well, it was his companies. He's allowed to pay himself what he wants.
That's true. But then I'm allowed to judge what he decided to pay himself. I absolutely think he can pay himself what he wants. But like we said earlier, he can't have it both ways. He can't be the good Samaritan, the greatest guy ever. He just cares about everyone when the numbers don't show that. So he can pay himself $10 million if he wants, and then we can react to it. We can audit it. If the company wasn't a nonprofit, pay yourself $100 million. But this is money that my neighbor gave, your neighbor gave, right? Your grandma gave $10. This is people that a lot of people don't have a lot of money, but they love Turning Point. They love the clips. They love the things. I know people. They had them on like a recurring thing. You know what I mean? Where every month money would debit from their account and go to Turning Point. That's the person I feel for, because your money did not go to what you thought. It went to this stuff. So devil's advocate is great. It's just can't have it both ways. Is he the good guy then if he decided to give himself 1.6 million?
It seems pretty unethical to me.
Yeah, usually when
you're lecturing people about so for example about food stamps and people being lazy and pick yourself up by your bootstraps, but you're taking people's donations because they're under the assumption that these dollars are being used for said purpose, but you're actually pampering yourself with this money while cosplaying, and maybe cosplaying is a bit of a strong term, but one would say that it's cosplaying as this ethical person, as far as your public image.
And the bootstraps is misleading. He does the usual story. I started in my basement with only 10,000, but then
Brian, I don't think that they were. I think that he's hit it. I think Charlie got the bulk of the money.
How is it the next year you had 420,000?
Same thing I asked. Yep.
How would that happen? If you and I start a nonprofit right now as two nobodies, we're not going to have that exponential growth in 1 year.
Right. And how did you get on Fox so fast? How did you get on not only Fox, but
Everywhere.
how are you with Don Jr. And just like that, you're in close vicinity to at the time presidential candidate Donald Trump. That's crazy to me. Like, and I keep telling my audience, and a lot of them get it. This is not normal. It's not that I'm trying to convince people that you can't be brilliant enough or you can't work hard. But we're talking about real life and how things usually goes. And if you know very little people to have pulled these things off, and then these people jump out of nowhere and all of a sudden they're doing it. If your antennas go up, it's probably a reason for it. Because we almost want to give people, Brian, the benefit of the doubt and say, well, it was something about them, someone that they knew, and they just had the perfect recipe to be able to pull these things off that no one else was able to do. What matters to me most is, do I agree with what they're saying? I get it. But these things are suspicious to me when these people come out of nowhere. But this right here is what I care about. Let's go behind the scenes and let's dig into the granularities of who these people are. And the numbers don't lie, as they say. Or the numbers can lie, but you got to know how to read the numbers.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing that blew me away about Charlie was he wasn't saying anything that would warrant this level of viralness. Like, anyone who disagrees, just go back and watch those early interviews objectively. I don't like Andrew Tate, but objectively, he says things where it makes sense to me that you'd share that with your friend.
Right.
That could go viral, right? Because at least it's like provocative. It's Fuentes would be another one. Those are provocative statements. It's not about agreeing or disagreeing, but do they provoke a thought in your head?
That's true.
Because he
Charlie
paid
Kirk
for
was
it.
not
I mean,
provoking enough.
it's because he paid for it. He felt like he had paid for something, and he wanted, he wanted something for them dollars.
A thought where it's like, man, Mom, you got to see this. John, you got to watch this. It was so basic. So
what would be your speculation after looking at the numbers and understanding that this person was being pushed on us? What do you think was going on? I think we both know the obvious answer, but I'm curious to hear what you say.
So maybe a little aside from the obvious, I think about the term limited hangout. The first time I heard that always stuck with me. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that term.
I've heard it, but I don't know the meaning of it.
Sure. So one of the main things the people in charge, whoever that is, they like to do is they create and install a character, and it's a limited hangout, meaning they're going to provide you limited truth as opposed to unlimited hangout, which is the real truth teller. So it's a brilliant strategy, because if you have people that are providing limited truth, you're controlling that. You're controlling that narrative without the audience knowing. So
you're taking them just far enough, and they're going to follow you. So if you don't go any further, they're not going to go any further. If you go left, they're not going to look right.
Correct. And then you let your guard down. Now, Charlie didn't do this, but others did. For example, COVID. If you liked Ben Shapiro as an example, and you quote, trust him, then he tells you to get vaccinated, you might get vaccinated, right? That's a limited hangout. I know people that got vaccinated because of Sean Hannity. They watch Hannity every night. He then, is pushing that's limited. So,
and a lot of people suffered for that. A lot of people got their YouTube accounts deleted. A lot of people lost their job. It was a lot of it. Just so here we are, I don't think it took 4 years, but years later, we find out that a lot of those people turned out to be right.
Yeah. So to me, again, what would make the most sense is you install Charlie, because he's a good speaker, not a great speaker, but definitely a very good speaker. And he can herd young people the direction they want to herd them. So you have someone on the left, maybe that guy, is his name Hassan? He would be Hassan Piker. He's a huge streamer on the left.
Oh, yeah.
He'd be the equivalent of, herding young people in that direction. Hey, cut off your hair, cut off your private, do this, right? And then you just have Charlie would be the opposite. But you're still herding them within the establishment. Notice this, what jumps out to me. You asked me earlier if I vote. I've never voted or registered. Why didn't Charlie tell us not to vote? Instead, you're telling us, no, vote for Donald Trump. Why wouldn't it be fight the establishment, fight this uniparty of right? No, they keep us in a left versus right fight. And that to me shows you've been installed.
Bingo.
You should be smarter than that.
Exactly. And I'm gonna tell you something, and some of my audience won't like this, but that's totally fine, because I'm about truth at the end of the day. This is part of the reason I was so confused with Candace. Candace is now saying this thing about how now she understands that it's not left versus the right, it's the people. Okay, I'm with you. I'm following you. But it's very difficult for me to believe, Candace, and I'm not trying to be too critical, but I'm being honest, that you're just now coming to that. Because another way to know if these people are controlled or not, Charlie Kirk was supposed to be, what is it? Limited government and the
15 looks like another payment, 500,000. But to me, this is going to keep up, right? What they're doing. And then I just looked at a few transactions. So you can go to fec.gov and download all the transactions like I did. And I've linked that in here. I think where it says there's some interesting stuff here. If you go.
Look, so I want to show y'all something else. That was pretty much the meat and potatoes of that. I'll show y'all this and then I will let y'all dip. I think this is the one. Hey, and shout out to this young kid, Didi, with a podcast. He is very brilliant, you know what I mean, in the way that he presents stuff. And this kid's worked hard to do that. So let me make sure that I give him his justice and his due flowers, as they say. I believe this is it. Yeah, this is going to blow some of y'all's fucking mind.
backstory or even her family's backstory, this is not the video for you. Now is a good time to click off. Now, if you do not fit into that category, stick with me because this video is about to get super interesting. And I'm going to try to share as much as I can because there's so many more coincidences that I just found. So remember, we talked about the music video that Erica Kirk was a part of back in 2012 called She's My Kind of Crazy, starring Emerson Drive, where in this music video, she marries a guy by the name of Tyler, not to mention the lead singer in that, I didn't know this before, but the lead singer in that music video is a guy by the name of Brad Mates. Brad Mates actually has a son himself called Tyler Roberts, but whatever, that's besides the point. Well, this music video was 3 minutes and 22 seconds long total. Why is that important? Because we've discussed multiple times on this channel, well before this year, by the way, the significance of the number 322. 322 is not only important as it pertains to Skull and Bones, obviously the vows to secrecy and the brotherhood that they committed to. But outside of that, 322 is also important because it's another way of venerating the number 7 as it pertains to gematria, numerology, and Freemasonry. 3 plus 2 plus 2 equals 7. Why is this important? Because when you think about the movie Snake Eyes, you know, the film where a guy by the name of Charles Kirkland was pow-powed in the right side of his neck at the Trump Towers on September the 10th, back in 1998. What happened just moments after Charles Kirkland or Charlie Kirkland was pow-powed in his neck? Nicolas Cage, the person that was assigned to investigate this pow-powing, he received a phone call. And on that phone call, what did they tell him? Don't forget your number, your lucky number. And he goes, what? And they said, don't forget your lucky number. What's your lucky number? And then they show this person flashing the number 7. Not to mention that this is in a venue where you see what looks to be like 2 twin Masonic pillars with the letters M on the top of both of them, which is going to be relevant as we talk about Erica Kirk's rings later in this video. This is also the same venue where you can see the all-seeing eye. This is also the same venue where a guy would be accused and go down by the name of Tyler the Executioner. But
just wait.
This video, because when Charles Kirkland was pow-powed in his neck, the person standing right in front of him that witnessed this was someone that worked for him, which is a character by the name of Julia, dressed in all white with blonde hair. This person, this character named Julia, is played by an actress called Carla Gugino. The same Carla Gugino who would star in a film earlier this year in 2025. And by this year, I mean in July of 2025, you know, the same month that Charlie Kirk hosted the Dave Smith-Josh Hammer debate. Heads of State comes out. Carla Gugino stars in that film as a character by the name of Elizabeth Kirk, who runs for and becomes the vice president. Well, this is how it ties to this music video. You know, the music video that came out a year after Erica Kirk's father, Kent Frantzvey, started his own YouTube channel and posted a very weird video just years later that we're going to talk about here in just a moment. But first, I need to give you some additional information. This music video called She's My Kind of Crazy, I found it very strange to find out that they actually posted like 4 behind the scenes videos, which we've already covered. One of them.
Listen to this.
Verify the fact that the person who is Erica's husband in the music video, his real name is Tyler, who in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, has the same or a similar phenotype as the actual Tyler Robinson in real life. Well, there's like 3 other behind the scenes videos that they released. One of these videos is showing the other people that was in the music video, including members of the band. Well, one of the people that was in the band and the music video is shown at the 3-minute and 20-second mark of this behind the scenes video with a pentagram tattoo on his arm. It may mean nothing. Again, I don't know. I'm just sharing this information with you. But what I found to be most interesting about this guy is his name is Mike. But you know what they call him? Mikey. In this behind the scenes video, I know that for a fact because they keep referring to him as Mikey.
We could actually, have a little bit of setup. We set up like Mikey right in the back of that bus.
Well, at the 3-minute and 20-second mark of this video, Mikey is explaining how he was trying to keep himself together as they were shooting the video because it wasn't the easiest thing to do. And the reason he's doing this is because in the music video, they were performing on top of a moving bus. Well, I just found it interesting that at this point in the video, Mikey would go out of his way to explain his role in the film and how he was trying to keep everything together, which is kind of ironic because when you think about real life here, you got the amazing, the great Mikey McCoy, who had this very odd behavior after Charlie Kirk was allegedly pow-powed, where he just casually walked off.
Ready to lose the hat and regrow the hair? With Choose by Hims, you can regain your hair and your confidence.
So you first tell us it's a coincidence because so many white guys are named Tyler, but you also want me to believe that it's a coincidence that there's another person in this film very close to Erica Kirk or Erica Frantvie at the time, marrying this guy named Tyler. There's another character close to them named Mikey. Well, there's another video, another behind the scenes video where at the 1-minute and 9-second mark of the video, which another way to think about that is 9:10. You can also think of that as 9:10, but that may be a stretch, whatever. But at the 1-minute and 9-second mark of this video, they show, wait for it, Erica Kirk for the first time wearing this weird snake head garment decor on her head. Now, I'm not a woman. I'm not a female. Never have been one. So maybe this is common, but to me, this picture just looks weird to me. But it continues to get even more weird because back on September the 15th, 2011, a YouTube account was created by the name of Kent Frantvie, which we've already covered.
there,
This channel is Erica Kirk's father, who has history working in Israel, and he helped build the Iron Dome. Well, if you're wondering if this is a fake account, maybe it's not her father, I have reason to believe that it is, because just 4 years later, on November the 2nd, 2015, so essentially 10 years ago to this date, Kent Frantvie posts a video to his YouTube channel, the only video on his YouTube channel, which is very weird and apocalyptic, showing like the end of the world. And it's like this cryptic message of trying to encourage people to be prepared for something that's coming. And what really confirmed for me that this was the right Kent Frantvie and not someone else with the same name is that at the 3-minute, and yep, you guessed it, 20-second mark of the video, we see for the very first time, Erica Kirk or Erica Frantvie at the time, we see her face for the very first time as she wearing, as they describe in the video, as this sort of emergency bag that she's been preparing or she's had in preparation for this end of the world event. And while I can't fully figure out the Planet of the Apes, theme of the video, what I can tell you is that there is a phrase at the very end of the video called Prepper Emporia. And I've looked it up and it means basically a marketplace that sells survival or emergency preparedness goods. Now, I want to state for the record that I looked up what happened back on September the 15th, 2011, around the time that this YouTube channel
Shit's crazy.
There was this significant event on September 15, 2011, where the Palo Verde Nuclear Generating Station, and of all places, Arizona, which is where TPUSA headquarters is stationed, only after Tyler Boyer convinced Charlie Kirk to move it from, I believe, Chicago to Arizona. Well, this nuclear generation station, which is the largest nuclear power plant in the U.S., reported a quote-unquote non-emergency event to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. And basically what happened was there was a malfunction with 2 outdoor sirens that were a part of this public warning system used to alert nearby communities in case of a nuclear emergency, such as a radiation leak or a plant accident. Again, this could mean absolutely nothing, but I just thought it was interesting that this happened around the same time in Arizona, where Turning Point USA is located. And then this video is showing this sort of apocalyptic, which many people fear, nuclear bomb or nuclear war taking place. So I just thought this was a weird coincidence. But the last thing I wanted to state, it has been the rings that Erica Kirk has been wearing at pretty much every outing. And people haven't really been able to figure out what these rings mean. I've said myself that I believe, this is not a fact, everything I say in this video is alleged. I believe that it could mean Mother Goddess. The M stands for mother, the G stands for goddess. Some people have said, well, it stands for the name of her children. How do you know that? Where have they ever publicly said the name of their children? The most we've ever gotten out of it is Gigi, which is ironically enough the same name of Kobe Bryant's daughter that passed away with him in the helicopter crash. Video coming on him soon, which also translates to 77 because the letter G is the seventh number in the alphabet, which there's that number 7 again. But regardless of what these letters mean, I think we can all agree.
All right, so he's live now with I guess more bombshell stuff when this TP. Let's see what the fuck he's talking about.
And I'm going to leave it to the expert and Brian himself to talk about it. Now, before we get into today's video, let me just say there has been a lot of people requesting, and I mean a lot. People have literally downloaded and become Patreon members just to DM me to ask for Brian's information. Let me tell you all what Brian has told me, because I'm going to get a lot more requests, and I understand why. It makes sense. Brian is not comfortable, for obvious reasons, with sharing his current email. All right. And so he has just shared with me a little bit before this live an alternative email that he just created. All right. His name is Brian, not Baron, but Brian. All right. So I will include his email.
Smoke one
his
for me,
brand new
Donnie.
email for people to reach out to him. I will include that in the description after this live ends. All right. So there's that. People have been asking for the report in full. Brian has also given me permission to share the full report only after he edits it. What do we mean by that? The report, the full forensic audit that he conducted on Turning Point USA, there is a lot of links in this document to Google Drives, to spreadsheets. I mean, there's a lot of spreadsheets, to pictures and photos and people's websites. It's incredible. However, many of the spreadsheets that Brian shared links back to his personal information, because it links back to Google Drive. So please allow Brian just a little bit of time to figure out how to edit that the correct way, where the information won't link back to him personally. All right. But the information will be shared soon. What's Brian's last name? If you have not gotten it already, I'm not going to tell you. Brian is not comfortable with that. But Brian has agreed to come on live. So if it's the Lord's will, Brian will be on live this week. So you all make sure your notification bell is hit. Please hit the like button so that this video can be spread. All right. If Brian is comfortable with telling people his last name, he'll tell you. Otherwise, you'll never get it from me. So please don't ask. All right.
Hey, y'all, after watching this video, y'all make sure to run over there and get this young man a subscription. I just think the young man's intelligent and he's putting out good information. And I think it needs to be heard by everybody.
There has been breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. There has been more information that's come out regarding the audit. I don't know if this channel conducted this only after they saw the video I did with Brian, but it doesn't matter, because they have now added to the information that Brian has presented to us. All right. And it's crazy. Before we react to that video, I do have the report here. All right. As I've said.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's like 25 pages long. But yeah,
Regular for
a lot of extensive information, man. So please be on the lookout for that.
That's what I'm talking about.
All right. Once again, please follow me on Instagram and Twitter. We will be sharing links and clips later this week. So that's another way I can reach out to you all. I like that. Brian's last name is none your business. Sounds about right. So without further ado, there's a channel called, I believe it's called Wolves and Finances. So we're going to react to the video that they just dropped less than 24 hours ago. I think it was like less than 10 hours ago or something. We're going to react to the video that they just dropped. And in real time, we're going to, because they're going to be talking about the direct IRS files and documents. And we're going to check, we're going to fact check this audit by Brian to see if the information aligns along with the additional information that's being presented by this channel. All right. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into it, man. The name of this show is called Wolves and Finance. And it says bombshell, did Turning Point USA commit fraud? Let's see what they're talking about here.
Oh, pulling a cash bill.
Since the murder of Charlie Kirk, there's been growing concern over potential financial mismanagement at Turning Point USA. I've been looking into this and have discovered some shocking information. We're going to explore the question, did Turning Point USA commit fraud? I'm Zach. I'm a certified public accountant, and you are watching Wolves and Finance.
I'm going to tell you all again, please hit the like button. It really, really helps. This video is about to get crazy.
In this video, I am very critical of Turning Point USA. Let me start off by saying that I believe this is a good organization, and I hope that they succeed. But they are not going to be able to continue Charlie Kirk's legacy if they are employing people who are stealing donations. The reason that people are concerned about Turning Point USA's finances is because statements made by Charlie Kirk himself. This is a memo written by Charlie Kirk on September 2nd, 2025, that is only 8 days before he was murdered. In this memo, he promotes Justin Strife as the new Chief Operating Officer, or COO, and announces a new Doge-style audit. After this memo was revealed, people obviously wanted to know,
oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, whoa.
What were the results of the Doge-style audit? Why was Charlie Kirk concerned with the finances of Turning Point USA right before he was murdered? Here's an exchange on X.com of someone asking that question. Why was Charlie about to audit the finances, and will it still be audited? This was responded to by someone from Turning Point named Tyler Boyer saying, "We audit our finances every year. They were just audited at the end of our fiscal year in July." He then goes on to say, "There is no scheming. Nonprofits have a 990 where everything is out front. No one owns anything, and our salaries are transparent. If you'd like a quick course on nonprofits, here is a good start."
And as we've already covered, everybody, and listen, I'm just going to give you a heads up. If you want to watch this video uninterrupted, this is the wrong live. Please go to that channel and watch it. We're going to break this down surgical and methodically, once again, to compare it to the things and the audit that Brian conducted just the other day. So he mentioned Justin Strife. Remember, Justin Strife was the person that was going to be pretty much running things, replacing Tyler Boyer. This was very suspicious from Brian's perspective. Why? Because Justin Strife, throughout Brian's audit, is very much so implicated in all the suspicious activity just as much as Charlie Kirk and the rest of Turning Point USA. And you're going to learn that in this video as well. So the fact that Justin Strife was mentioned only made things more confusing.
And then he links the accountinginsights.org website where they talk about the Form 990. Okay, number one, that response by Tyler Boyer
What in the
is a
fuck-
little bit snarky.
What in the fucking response?
And I'm just showing you one of his posts. There are many posts like this, and they are all just as snarky. I would like to ask Tyler Boyer if he can lower the snarkiness because it is a very legitimate question. A Doge-style audit is not the same thing as the annual financial audit, and everybody knows that.
Exactly.
Charlie Kirk wanted a second independent audit on top of the annual financial audit. According to Tyler Boyer's post, Turning Point is not going forward with Charlie Kirk's wishes.
Wow.
They have canceled the audit. The question is why? Why did they decide not to follow through with Charlie Kirk's final wish? What is also interesting is that Tyler Boyer is the person who was replaced by Justin Strife in Charlie Kirk's memo. Tyler Boyer was the former COO of Turning Point USA from 2017. And then 8 days before Charlie Kirk was murdered, he appoints a new person as COO. Tyler Boyer steps away so he can focus more on his job as COO of their other organization, Turning Point Action. Isn't that a strange coincidence?
Mhm.
Tyler Boyer was removed from his position in the same memo that Charlie Kirk announces a financial audit. Then after that, Charlie Kirk is murdered, and Tyler Boyer is on X.com saying that no audit is necessary. So here's what I think we should do. We should follow Tyler Boyer's snarky advice. Let's go look at the 990 forms that Turning Point USA submits to the IRS every year. These contain their annual financial statements. When you look at the forms, there are some very strange anomalies. Several of the 990 forms are missing. Turning Point USA lists 4 related entities. There's Turning Point USA, Turning Point Endowment, Turning Point Action, and America's Turning Point. All different organizations do slightly different things. The Form 990 for fiscal year 2024 is posted for Turning Point USA, but it is missing for all the other 3 organizations.
Wow.
It looks like it was never turned in.
Now, remember when Brian and I covered this, many people don't even know. Mostly people know about Turning Point USA. And then you have a smaller group of people that know about Turning Point USA and Turning Point Action. But very few people actually know about the other 2, which are endowments. There are 2 endowments. And of course, we covered in the video with Brian that Charlie Kirk was giving himself, not only Charlie Kirk, but Tyler Boyer was giving themselves a salary from each of those 4 entities. Now I'm gonna break down later in this video why that's a problem, because you had a lot of people in the comment, not a lot, but you had some people in the comment section saying, well, he's the CEO, he is Turning Point USA, he's allowed to pay himself whatever he wants. If there's no Charlie Kirk, there's no Turning Point USA. I'm not arguing with any of that. In fact, Brian and I both said that Charlie Kirk can give himself whatever salary that he wants. Don't strawman the argument. That's not what the issue is. The issue isn't the amount. The issue is the way in which it was distributed. If there's no wrongdoing, if there's nothing wrong with paying yourself 1.6 million,
Then just
why did you split your salary in 4 different ways amongst 2 other organizations that are subsidiaries that falls under Turning Point USA, and the amounts were basically identical? For like 3 years, it was quite literally the exact same salary under each one, down to the cent. That appears to many of us, people, experts like Brian, that you had a number in mind and you just split it in 4 ways. So it had nothing to do with your job description. It had nothing to do with the amount of hours that you logged. It had nothing to do with any of it. It just appeared that you had a predetermined number and you split it up. And what makes it even more suspicious is that 2 of them are endowments, which means what? On the company's dime, on donors' dime, right? So in other words, the money that donors, hardworking Americans, many of them, not all of them, Many of them are hardworking Americans that don't have just spare money to give away. They really believe in the mission. You're taking a lot of that money and you're transferring it to an endowment that I can guarantee you many of them don't even know exists. And you're investing it into the stock market when you should be, as a 501c3 nonprofit organization, you should be taking those funds and placing it back into the organization to really make a difference in the country, not investing it and fattening your pockets. I don't care if you like Charlie Kirk or not. There are many things about Charlie Kirk that I like and I agree with, and I still agree with. There are several things about Charlie Kirk that I disagree with. This happened to be one of them. Whether it's illegal or not, if you are a Christian, and many people donating to that organization is a Christian, are Christians, whether it's illegal or not, it's unethical. And if it's unethical, it should be treated the same as if it's illegal.
Exactly.
Let's continue.
This is a massive red flag. So Tyler Boyer is being snarky on X.com and telling people to go look at the annual financial audit, but the financial audit is missing from last year for 3 of the 4 organizations. Just to show you how strange this is, if we go back 2 years to fiscal year 2023, where we have all the financial statements, we can see that in fiscal year 2023, all 4 statements were filed on the same day on 5/15/2024. That is what normally happens. On May 15th, Turning Point would file all 4 financial statements for their organizations. But for fiscal year 2024, only 1 financial statement was filed for Turning Point USA on 5/15/2025. The other 3 are missing.
Wow.
This strange decision to hide their financial statements happened 4 months before Charlie Kirk was murdered.
Yeah.
I will repeat for clarity. Someone at Turning Point decided not to file 3 of the 4 of their annual financial statements 4 months before Charlie Kirk appointed a new COO, requested a new audit, and was murdered. Those 3 financial statements are still missing. Let me give you just one example of why this is problematic. Let us look at the one financial statement we do have for fiscal year 2024 for Turning Point USA. Schedule I shows grants and other assistance to organizations, governments, and individuals in the United States. This schedule shows you where Turning Point is sending its money. We see that a lot of money, $8,560,625, is being sent to America's Turning Point. They are sending it to their own shell company. Now, this is not necessarily illegal, except for the fact that the financial statement for the other organization is missing.
Which means we have no idea what they're doing with those people. In layman terms, in translation, there's $8.5 million that was transferred to their shell company, which also happens to be an endowment. And the IRS documents are missing, which means they quote unquote missed the deadline to report this to the IRS so that we can actually see where those funds and how those funds were actually appropriated. That's what that means. This is a problem.
We cannot see how this $8.6 million is being spent. This is very important because there are strange variances around this money. I have pulled the last 5 years of 990 forms for Turning Point USA. Here is a table with contributions compared with the largest expense, which are the grants from Schedule I. You can immediately see a strange dip between 2022 and 2023. This dip happens because in prior years, they were sending money to Turning Point Endowment. They were transferring millions of dollars. This stopped in 2021, and they started ramping up sending money to America's Turning Point. Let's break this down.
If you can't quit the P word, I want to let you know that scripture tells us that.
First of all, I find it really unethical that they were sending millions of dollars to their own endowment.
BD got a podcast.
I know that a lot of nonprofits do this, but I think it is unethical. Do the donors know this is how Turning Point is spending their money? Turning Point USA is taking in donations and then sending the money to their endowment to invest in the stock market. In my opinion, they should be spending spending donations on operating their nonprofit, not on buying investments.
I agree. And Brian shared in our video that what? He said this is a common practice with nonprofits. So to be fair to Turning Point USA, this is not an anomaly, right? You see this in nonprofit. This is a standard practice, although the numbers here at Turning Point USA are much more massive just because of the scale or the size of the nonprofit here in particular. But that doesn't make it right. And the transparency here is extremely lacking. So it just raises more questions, more red flags, and it just makes this entire thing seem more fraudulent.
As of fiscal
No
year
reason to
2023,
pow
they
somebody.
had $61 million of assets in the endowment, which was generating $1.9 million a year of investment income.
Where's Tyler Robinson's lover? That's what I want to know.
Personally, I think that's an unethical way to run a nonprofit, but that's just my opinion.
Right.
But what is important here is what happened to the missing $8.6 million, the amount sent to America's Turning Point in fiscal year 2024. The amount of money sent to America's Turning Point was getting larger and larger, and because the financial statements are missing, we cannot tell how this money was spent. If we look at the prior year, the majority of the money was spent on other salaries and wages. How is this possible when America's Turning Point reports 0 employees? Does anyone else think that sounds a little suspicious? Let me walk you through this. We have the two organizations, the main company Turning Point USA and America's Turning Point. America's Turning Point has never reported any employees. Turning Point USA's number of employees has decreased dramatically over the last 3 years. In the last year alone, the number of employees decreased by 33%. That is a massive decrease in workforce. But while they are laying people off, their salary expense is skyrocketing for both organizations. No.
Whoa, what? Okay, so this, I don't even think Brian and I covered this. So what this guy is saying is they were so basically they were laying people off. And usually you do that in the nonprofit world because you can't afford to pay people. But while they were laying people off, the remaining people that were there, not only were their salaries increasing, it was drastically increasing. And I know that before we even get even more granular into the numbers, because if you go from 681 employees in 2022 to 458, I'm not the best at math, but that's over 220 employees that you laid off in just a calendar year. But the salary goes up by $1 million. You lay off or you fire 220 people, but your salary budget and wages goes up well over 1.2 million.
It's not right.
That math isn't mathing, people.
None of this makes any sense. How is America's Turning Point reporting millions of dollars of salary expense when they have no employees? How is Turning Point USA's salary expense skyrocketing when the number of employees is plummeting? And why are the financial statements missing? What was the $8.6 million spent on? In my opinion, what I think is happening is I think there are fake people on the payroll. I think that paychecks are getting sent to people who do not really exist. And that would explain why we have a company with 0 employees with millions of dollars of salary expense. What about Tyler Boyer's argument that they have an annual financial audit every year? If what I'm saying is true, why wouldn't their annual audit catch these issues? The annual financial audit for Turning Point USA, Inc. and its affiliates was performed by an accounting firm called Baker Tilly. In the notes, they explain that they audited Turning Point USA, Turning Point Action, Turning Point Endowment, America's Turning Point, and TP USA Merch. That usually means they audited all the shell companies when they provided their opinion that the statements present fairly in all material respects. That means it is a clean audit with no problems.
Here's the problem, though, and Brian and I covered this as well. I'm wondering if this is the because the one of the biggest questions from that entire interview with Brian a question that he raised, and I think is very legitimate. He says you have to understand how these things work. If you're having in-house auditors, right, people that are almost like quote unquote family that are auditing TPUSA, are you going to bite the hand that feeds you?
No.
So I wonder if this is the company that's always been auditing them. And I'm not saying that this is true. I'm not even alleging this. I'm just raising the question. It just bears to wonder if there was some sort of benefit of this auditing group or company, if there was some sort of benefit on their end, if they quote unquote never found anything wrong with Turning Point USA finances. I'm not saying that
of
they
course
benefited
there
from it,
was.
but you have to wonder. And I think it's fair game to question and to wonder that, and to even look into it to see if that's the case. It makes me wonder about their background, because many of these companies, remember from the audit with Brian, his audit revealed that a lot of these companies that Turning Point USA was these vendors,
They wasn't companies.
Paying these absurd amounts of money, like Donald Trump Jr.'s company. There was some company named 110 that they were using as an ad agency for marketing purposes, but they don't even have other clients. So Turning Point USA believed in them so much that they're paying these people absurd amount of money. So they're so massive, they're so good, they're so top of the line, they're creme de la creme, but no one else is using them. You're choosing to go to them over Google? That makes no sense. Where are your other clients? It makes no sense. So I'm mentioning that to say, I wonder if this auditing company that they're using, or that's auditing Turning Point USA, not the independent. I don't consider this an independent audit, especially not an independent forensic audit, the way in which Brian conducted. I wonder if they have other clients and what their history is with them.
I wonder if Baker Tilly will provide an explanation why they can issue a flawless audit report when 3 990 forms were never filed with the IRS. And just to clarify, Baker Tilly's audit
This shit's
going to
take them down. Watch.
After Turning Point missed the filing date with the IRS. So there is no excuse for Baker Tilly not to mention this in their audit opinion. Just so you understand who Baker Tilly is, let me show you a lawsuit that was filed against them just this year by a Catholic charity.
In a lawsuit filed Friday, Catholic Charities claims they're out millions of dollars after a former employee in their finance department misused funds. And that's not all. The local nonprofit is also going after Baker Tilly, the firm that was auditing their finances at the time. Catholic Charities provides a number of programs, including counseling, adoption, and immigration services. This 12-page lawsuit says the former employee worked for Catholic Charities for over 10 years, holding many positions, including director of finance. It says she abused her authority and misappropriated millions of dollars. The lawsuit
We all heard
claims
that
she did
before,
this
ain't
in
we?
2 schemes. The first alleges paying false invoices. Catholic Charities says the second scheme involved a woman using company credit cards for personal purchases like Amazon Prime Video rentals, Uber rides, Ticketmaster purchase, and casino purchases from MGM Grand.
Oh, Lord.
The lawsuit also states that Baker Tilly failed to recognize clearly fraudulent purchasing activity.
The lawsuit alleges that someone in leadership at the highest levels of this Catholic charity stole millions of dollars. This was going on year after year after year,
And they never caught
and
it.
Baker Tilly never mentioned it in any of their audits. It makes you wonder, are they even looking at the financials? No. This is the same accounting firm doing the annual audits at Turning Point USA. Erica Kirk assumed the role of CEO of Turning Point USA on September 18th, 2025, 8 days after Charlie Kirk was murdered. She has been the CEO for almost 2 months. She needs to answer these questions.
None of these things
She
have been
can't
mentioned
answer
by
them. She
Erica.
doesn't know them.
Nothing critical has been said. You can say, well, they're probably keeping it in house. Maybe they're doing their own internal investigation. Why are all the red flags that we're noticing about the Charlie Kirk case, about their financial records? Why is everything possibly being handled in a way in which no one else knows if it's actually happening or not? Why? This is not normal. That's not normal. I know a lot of you all are wanting to protect Erica because you believe that she's a grieving widow. Some of us have better discernment. Respectfully. We talked about his life insurance policy, which we'll get into that a little bit later.
If someone has lied on the 990 form, people go to jail for that. I want some explanation of why Turning Point USA sent $8.6 million to their shell company and then did not file financial statements.
Style starts with the details. The difference between mid and next level, a real gold.
And Erica, I don't know who does the accounting at Turning Point, but they have not been telling you about any of this. You need to fire your accountants immediately.
It's a fact.
This reminds me of what happened with Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett is one of the most famous investors in the world. But a lot of people do not know that he got in big trouble with the SEC. This happened a long time ago in the 1970s. He had a rapidly growing organization consisting of all these different shell companies. The companies were transferring money back and forth. The companies would own stocks of all the other companies. The SEC opened an investigation into Warren Buffett for fraud. He talks about this in his biography. He describes a scene where he is sitting with his lawyer, Chuck Rickershauser. Rickershauser had been studying a chart that showed Buffett and Munger's complex financial interests. The complex cross-holdings that Buffett had created looked suspicious. Rickershauser stared at the crazy diagram and fretted. There's got to be an indictment in there somewhere. Now, do I think that Warren Buffett intentionally committed fraud? No, I do not. I think his company grew really fast and things got out of control with all of these shell companies. He fixed it by restructuring the company and paying a $115,000 fine. I think something very similar is happening at Turning Point, and let me give you a specific example. In fiscal year 2023, Turning Point USA, which is the main 501c3 nonprofit organization, transferred $664,572 to Turning Point Action, which is the 501c4 nonprofit. This transfer was reported as reimbursement of a...
If you ask me, they know what's going on. Somebody there knows exactly what's going on, and this was done on purpose.
Event expenses.
And when I say
Turning
this
Point
was done on
Action
purpose,
then turned around and transferred almost the exact same amount, $650,000, to Turning Point PAC, which is another shell company I haven't even talked about yet. Now, this is not necessarily illegal, but it looks really suspicious.
Yeah, and Turning Point PAC, everybody, because I'm not sure if he's going to cover this or not, but Turning Point PAC, remember I asked Brian about that as well. Turning Point PAC is basically, it's an entity that is legally allowed to be able to contribute to a politician's campaign. As a 501c3, Turning Point USA cannot directly do that themselves. But if they take the funds that have been donated to them by donors and then they transfer it to one of their subsidiaries or one of their LLCs, right, one of their shell companies, then they're legally required to do it. Yeah, sure, it's still legal, but that's a bit dishonest and a bit unethical if you're presenting yourself as one way, but you're quote unquote using dark money to fund or to contribute to a politician's campaign such as a Donald Trump. Yeah, but let's continue.
It looks like you are taking in tax-exempt donations at Turning Point USA and then funneling the money through your shell companies to your PAC that you can then spend on political campaigns because of less accounting restrictions.
Yep.
Again, this is not necessarily illegal if they structure their transactions correctly and utilize campaign finance loopholes.
Oh yeah, they know.
But it certainly looks unethical. Why is it that almost the exact same dollar amount gets transferred between the organizations? The difference between Warren Buffett and Turning Point, besides the obvious fact of the difference between private companies and nonprofits, is that at Turning Point, we have missing financial statements and a memo from Charlie Kirk saying that he has concerns with the finances. The problem with having multiple shell companies like this is that it becomes very easy for your employees to steal from the organization. There's a person who works with Turning Point USA named Rob McCoy. He is the co-chair of TPUSA Faith. The first indication that something was not right with Rob McCoy was the speech he gave at Charlie Kirk's memorial service. Rob McCoy uses his speech at the memorial service to announce himself as America's pastor.
In a conversation with Charlie in the green room in Korea, he said something to me that he'd said a number of times. He said, he kept calling me his pastor, and I stopped him. I said, Charlie, since the president's gotten elected, your stock has risen through the stratosphere, and I don't see much of you. I mean, he wasn't a very good congregant. He was on the road 320 days a year. But he said, Rob, not only are you my pastor, but you're America's pastor. And I said, Charlie, if we were at a tabling event on a campus where you had the table said, prove me wrong, I'd win. And he looked at me with that sheepish grin that he always has.
Has or had. I hate when people talk about
Doggone it if he wasn't right. I mean, I wasn't America's pastor 2 minutes ago, and I won't be after this, but for right now, he proved me wrong.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Normally, at a memorial service, you would talk about how great the person is who died. But instead, Rob McCoy decides to talk about his own greatness. Apparently, Charlie Kirk appointed him as America's pastor.
Yeah, and there's so many things wrong with Rob McCoy and his past, his background. Candace Owens has been digging into this. Shout out to Baron Coleman. Baron Coleman and I have been talking behind the scenes. Hopefully, there's a collaboration coming soon with me, him, and maybe a couple of other people. If we can find this, make that happen, that'd be dope. I think the people will love to see that. But including the fact that he deleted, or they allegedly made a video private, while Baron Coleman was reacting to one of his videos live. So that's been pretty crazy. I know Ian Carroll reacted to that as well. But this is very strange, and I want you all to understand the manipulation. If you notice, let me rewind it just a little bit. When you see the guy back here playing the piano, I'm not saying it's a bad thing to be doing this, because it's not, inherently sinister. But when he's standing there talking, I know a lot of pastors do this across the nation, but they got the pianoist back there playing this music to sort of pull at your heartstrings. I just feel like in this particular scenario, it's a bit of a manipulation to distract from, or to make what the person's saying seem just that much more emotional. In my opinion, I don't think you need all of that. Just get up there and talk to people. You don't need the person sitting back there playing the right notes and the right tunes to pull at people's heartstrings.
Open your wallet up.
About how great the person is who died. But instead, Rob McCoy decides to talk about his own greatness. Apparently, Charlie Kirk appointed him as America's pastor. Personally, I find this gross and egotistical. This doesn't seem very Christian-like to me. I am an American, and I'm a Christian, and I can tell you this, Rob McCoy, you are not my pastor. Let me know in the comments down below, am I the only person who finds it strange that Rob McCoy would use the memorial service to call himself?
Now, this is just the sweetest wallet I've ever seen. GPS trackable, trigger in
America's pastor. A lot of people have made the connection that Rob McCoy's son, Mikey McCoy, was Charlie Kirk's chief of staff.
Let me pause once again for those of you that have joined late. Brian, the forensic auditor that featured on my channel, he will be making another appearance sometime this week. So make sure the notification bell is hit on this channel so that you're notified every single time we post a new video. This will be a big deal. He has a bombshell to break about Mikey McCoy. As I always say, allegedly.
Yeah,
you do not want to miss this video. I won't say too much. I'll leave it to the expert and Brian to break the news. You all will not want to miss that. I promise you that one. If you think that first video was insightful, well, we got some more stuff coming.
That is a red flag. In the accounting world, you do not want two family members in leadership positions.
Yep.
One of the greatest threats in accounting is if two people work together to get around accounting internal controls. For instance, if you have two family members in senior positions, one person can make a fake expense request, the second person can approve it, and the accounting system will not know that anything is wrong. Now, we do not know for sure that Rob McCoy and Mikey McCoy were stealing money from Turning Point USA. All I am saying is that it is a red flag. Another red flag is someone named John McGovern.
Yep.
Let me say this. Now, didn't Erica claim that Mikey called her immediately? But then Mikey's dad claims that he called him immediately with blood all over him. Now, think about that for a minute.
John McGovern is the highest paid employee at Turning Point USA. In fiscal year 2024, he made $420,709 in his salary at Turning Point USA and $35,960 in salary from related organizations, which we cannot trace because the financial statements are missing. In comparison, if we look at Charlie Kirk's combined salary from Turning Point USA and related organizations, Charlie Kirk made less money at $390,493. Let's look at the previous year in 2023. John McGovern makes a lot less at $223,613. It is unusual that his salary more than doubled in 1 year. John McGovern was involved in fundraising, which is essentially sales for a nonprofit. So it is not unheard of for a salesperson to make more money than the CEO. He also probably receives some kind of incentive payments based on how much fundraising he brings in. So maybe there is some explanation, but to double your salary in 1 year is very strange, especially for a nonprofit. Here's the bigger problem. John McGovern is listed as an employee under Turning Point USA. In fiscal year 2023, for Turning Point Action, he's listed separately as an independent contractor that was paid $512,100 for fundraising.
I'm going to tell you all why this is incredibly suspicious, outside of just obvious, because you're going to have people to say, once again, you all just don't understand the scale that Turning Point USA was growing, and you just don't understand these dollars make sense. Okay, even if that was the case, which I don't believe it is, I want you all, you don't have to be an expert. You don't have to be Brian. You don't have to be these people to understand that there is something wrong here. $500,000 from just one of the companies that you're entitled or you're listed as an employee under. Whatever you're doing, it was more than enough for you to be paid $500,000. That's not normal. To make things even worse, this was the subsidiary, people. That's going to go over a lot of people's head like a stocking cap. This was the subsidiary, Turning Point Action, which means it doesn't even come close to making and drawing in and pulling in the dollars as a Turning Point USA, which is the big dog, right? That's the heavyweight. How is it that you're making more money under Turning Point Action? What do you do again? And how is it that you were making just, individual salaries alone? I don't think collectively altogether he was, but from just these salaries alone, you're making way more money than Charlie Kirk, who is Turning Point USA. You're making more money than the face of Turning Point USA. Brian raised this question in the original video, and I'm going to raise it here. Was it Charlie Kirk that was truly running Turning Point USA, or was it this guy, John?
He is getting paid from both organizations.
What?
If you add that together, that is $735,713. What is going on here? Let me ask the donors of Turning Point USA, does it bother you that they are spending $736,000 for one person for fundraising?
David, the movie.
It will bother me.
Remember that Tyler Boyer is the COO for Turning Point Action. Why is Tyler Boyer paying a contract to a Turning Point USA employee? What is also alarming about this is that Turning Point Action specifically was fined $18,000 by the FEC in November 2024 for failing to disclose its donors. Now, it is possible that this FEC investigation was just lawfare by the Biden administration, but it does raise concerns. Why is there a pattern of questionable financial disclosure? Why was Tyler Boyer hiding donor information? Now it seems he's not reporting salary compensation.
And let me just say, I don't believe that Tyler Boyer, I don't believe that President Biden was behind the fines in 2024. And let me tell you why. Remember what Brian said in the original video where I interviewed him. Brian said, notice how Republicans almost never, ever question the financial backings or the financial details for nonprofits ran by Democrats and vice versa, because this is a common practice that they all benefit from.
Listen, the only reason you would hide, the only reason I can think of that you would hide your financial reports is because there's shady shit going on. What's up, smart mouth? And they're caught. And you tell me that this ain't cause to do what they did, you know? And hey, shout out to Candace Owens for getting this shit going, because she's the one that kept bringing everybody's attention. And if you go back and watch all these motherfuckers that have came out and like tried to shame everybody for digging into this and looking into this shit, whew, there's a reason for it.
Right? So if Joe Biden was to really fine them, $15 measly $1,000 is nothing. He would have paid attention to all of this. Much how we're trying to figure out how the auditor, whether it was a forensic auditor or not, how is it that they were not able to catch these things that independent people on YouTube have been able to put together by simply putting the time in? It makes no sense. If Joe Biden really wanted to go after them, he would have caught way more fraud.
And the financial statements are missing. In my opinion, this looks blatantly illegal. You cannot pay an employee a contract on the side through a shell company and not report any of it as compensation. It looks like there are a number of laws being broken here. Now, maybe Turning Point has an explanation for this, but I would like to know what that is. Now, there's not a lot of information about John McGovern. He's kind of a shadow.
That bitch got Carl's shirt. Motherfucker. Oh yeah. Carl's involved now. Yep. No wonder he's fucking going batshit crazy.
We figure that we don't know a lot about. It is strange that such a secretive person would be involved in sales. That's pretty unusual. But he does have a Facebook page. And if you look at his profile, you see that he is constantly traveling around the world.
I bet he is.
Why does this man do so much international travel? Specifically, there are a lot of videos of him spending time in Ukraine. It turns out that he operates a nonprofit called To the Nations that is described on their website as a charity that currently exists to assist Ukraine. Now remember that Charlie Kirk was very vocal against the US funding the war in Ukraine. In a post on X.com, he criticized Ukraine's transgender military spokesperson. He said, Ashton Cirio is now taking to social media, threatening to hunt down and kill those who criticize the country's government. Just so you understand what Charlie Kirk was talking about here, I'm going to show you exactly what the transgender spokesperson said.
Next week, the teeth of the Russian devils will gnash ever harder, and their rabid mouths will foam in uncontrollable frenzy as the world will see a favorite Kremlin propagandist pay for their crimes. And this puppet of Putin is only the first. Russia's war criminal propagandists will all be hunted down, and justice will be served as we in Ukraine are led on this mission by faith in God, liberty, and complete liberation.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
This person says,
and a fucking trans person is the one that got him? Did this motherfucker have inside connections? Huh? Are y'all thinking what the fuck I'm thinking?
propagandists will all be hunted down and justice will be served. If you remember, Tucker Carlson was actually placed on a kill list. and remains on that list to this day. You might also remember that the second assassination attempt on Donald Trump was committed by Ryan Ruth, who also spent time in Ukraine. Isn't it strange that there are all these connections between assassins and Ukraine right before Charlie Kirk was murdered? And now we have John McGovern, the highest paid employee at Turning Point USA, getting strange contracts on the side and spending all this time in Ukraine, the same country where there is a lot of people who want to kill Charlie Kirk. According to his Facebook page, John McGovern left to take a trip to Ukraine on July 24th, 2 months before Charlie Kirk's murder. Then after the murder, John McGovern returns back to Ukraine for a second trip just last month. Am I the only person who is seeing red flags all over the place? And by the way, if John McGovern is spending so much time in Ukraine, who exactly is he getting the money from for his Turning Point fundraising?
A bigger question is, he's spending so much time traveling and doing all this other stuff. How is he doing the job that he's being paid for? Right? Like, how?
Did he? Did you not just hear what the fuck was just said? Y'all remember the fucking dude that did damn thing saying, hey, hold on now, that ain't the one that shot or powed or whatever the fuck YouTube makes you say. Charlie Kirk, it was the dude in black. That's not who we seen. Holy shit.
It's the same question we're having with Tyler Boyer and Charlie Kirk. I understand the Charlie Kirk thing is a bit more easier to defend because it's Charlie Kirk, but you still have to question, how are you doing the things? How are you being paid $300,000-$400,000 from each of your endowments, respectively, down to the same? I mean, down to the dime, the same exact numbers, massive numbers to equal 1.6 million. You're not a financial advisor. That's what it will require for you to be running an endowment, to be, managing the funds. There's only so many hours in a week, especially when you're a so-called husband with allegedly 2 children, and you have a radio show. You're debating college students across the world, across the country. What time do you have to do all these things? Same question is being raised for Tyler Boyer. Same question is being raised for this John character.
But there's an even bigger red flag. Do you remember the trip to Korea?
Yeah.
This was the same trip that Pastor Rob McCoy talked about that happened 2 weeks before Charlie Kirk was murdered. Do you know who was on that trip?
Mikey McCoy.
Rob McCoy, Mikey McCoy, and John McGovern. Why were all these people with red flags on this same trip 2 weeks before Charlie Kirk was murdered? That's quite the coincidence. Now, just to clarify for legal reasons, I do not have any evidence of a specific crime. We would need an FBI investigation of the books at Turning Point USA to determine that for sure. What I have presented are red flags and a lot of questions that need to be answered. This is all based on financial evidence that Turning Point themselves has posted online. Anyone can go and confirm everything I am saying. All these problems suggest financial mismanagement at Turning Point USA. And from Charlie Kirk's memo, we know that he did not understand what's going on. If someone was able to keep this hidden from Charlie Kirk, that suggests that the people involved are at the highest levels of Turning Point USA. I will repeat, because I know that a lot of people do not want to believe this. The financial statements suggest that someone at the highest levels of Turning Point USA is stealing the donations. I don't understand why no one is looking into this. Erica Kirk has been the CEO for 2 months, and she needs to start answering questions. I've covered a lot in this video, so let me summarize. Why is Turning Point USA refusing to do the financial audit that Charlie Kirk requested?
Well, we already got the questions. Appreciate that, man. Huge shout out to that guy. Once again, the name of this channel is Wolves in Finance. Let me just answer this in short for you. In my opinion, I don't believe that this question will be answered. No time soon. And that's just alleged. Again, for legal reasons, I don't have any proof or evidence that something is 100% illegally taking place. But this is
did y'all hear what I heard?
It turns out that he operates a nonprofit called To the Nations that is described on their website as a charity that currently exists to assist Ukraine. Now remember that Charlie Kirk was very vocal against the US funding the war in Ukraine. In a post on X.com, he criticized Ukraine's transgender military spokesperson. He said, Ashton Cirio is now taking to social media threatening to hunt down and kill those who criticize the country's government. Just so you understand what Charlie Kirk was talking about here, I'm going to show you exactly what the transgender spokesperson said.
Next week, the teeth of the Russian devils will gnash ever harder, and their rabid mouths will foam in uncontrollable frenzy as the world will see a favorite Kremlin propagandist pay for their crimes. And this puppet of Putin is only the first. Russia's war criminal propagandists will all be hunted down, and justice will be served as we in Ukraine are led on this mission by faith in God, liberty, and complete liberation.
Oh boy.
That is fucking crazy. What's up, Deb? I don't know. That just seems weird, right? Tyler Robinson's fucking homosexual. These people are homosexual. They're threatening. This dude, Turning Point USA's tied in with them over there and goes to Ukraine. A lot to unpack right there. Lot to and I don't mean that in any kind of, you know, booty packing way, but that's a lot to fucking unpack. It's all crazy. What if they all knew? Just like Diamond said earlier, Erica says, I know everything. What does she know? I will text. I'll drop the link for you. Would you like to comment? Hold on, I'll drop the link. If you choose to, you ain't got to, but I will drop it for you. This is just crazy, man. When you stop and you talking about so much money, I mean, you're talking millions and millions of dollars, and somebody's demanding a Doe style audit where they go through everything with a fine-tooth comb. And you get these people doing this. I mean, when you're wrapped in that deep, what do? You know? Yeah, and that's not what I was trying to do, Tex. I just was trying to show people, you know, what was kind of happening, because everybody thinks that all these people are on the up and up, but really in the books are not. Now, I think that Charlie knew about all that? No, I doubt it. He was too busy. When you're traveling 300 days a year, the time that you do have free, the last thing you're wanting to do is spend it combing through the books. And that's why he trusted these people. And as we all know, when money gets involved, people get greedy. It's fucking sad, man. It's sad when anybody gets taken out in that form and fashion, especially like right in front of all of us. I don't know what to think about that shit. Well, y'all, I am fixing to haul ass. I appreciate everybody joining me. That's a lot to think about. It really is a lot to think about. Text if you're going to jump up and you want to talk. Right now would be the time, because I am fixing to end the stream. When you come in, I'll end it. I mean, you can sit here backstage for a minute and talk. Y'all, I appreciate y'all hanging out with me. I will see y'all next time. Peace.